Dingfelder. Boots.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Citro. Miranda.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Vieira.
Here. Okay, who has invocation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, this morning it's my pleasure to introduce once again Mr. Steve Michelini, who does an outstanding job as the prayer. So he's my original prayer giver just about 80% of the time. Mr. Michelini, former city employee, and he's here today to do the prayer. Please rise for prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning. Dear Lord, the Lord does not discriminate. The Lord bestows challenges as well as good fortune, equally to the wealthy, the poor, the strong, and the infirm, the weak, and the powerful. No one escapes the critical eye of the all-seeing or the saving grace. Events are not always what they seem, and apparent success at one time is frequently accompanied by unexpected and consequential failure at another. Failure is not always bad, and success is not always good. Measure your successes and your apparent failures and successes equally. The Lord has no agenda and no timetable. And the child looks heavenward and asks the Lord, why is there pain? Why is there hurt, loss, destruction, suffering, and hunger, and other challenges? Why are there storms that hurt people and dash their earthly dreams? Why do people lose faith, have broken hearts, broken dreams, and the loss of hope? And the Lord said, without these challenges, you would not know the brilliant light of day, the beautiful and precious nature of life, the good earth, a peaceful life, the oceans and seas, the blue skies in the day, and the star-filled nights, the majestic mountains and the peaceful waters, and all the animals of the air, land, and sea. The holy grace of the Lord resides in all of these, and in you. These elements of life help the believers to strengthen their resolve, and non-believers to find the Lord and keep him dear. Trials bring greater rewards. Who among us does not marvel at the bountiful treasures of the earth? Why does the Lord challenge us? It's not clear, but every challenge carries a message, an intent, a lesson, an experience designed to educate, to learn, and to lead us to a better place, to a devotional prayer for all of our thanksgivings. Be ever mindful that what you ask for in prayer, as the Lord's answer, may not be what you expect. Be grateful for what you have in every respect, so many others have less. We ask that your holy grace and the protection be bestowed upon the teachers, first responders, the armed forces, elected officials, and all those who have been impacted by the devastating storms. Comfort those in need. Help them find holy grace and salvation. In your name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we do approval of the agenda, I wanted to briefly review that today we're beginning with our what we call the 10 a.m. rule, which is at 10 a.m. that all staff who are here to speak about items will be going forward at 10 a.m. On those items so that we can have a time certain so that we can most effectively utilize the time of staff and whatnot. And additionally, this is going to include items presently 28, 40, which I believe are being pulled, 69, 70, 71, and 72 at 10 a.m. So just to publicly state that for everybody. Okay, and with that being said, may I have, go ahead, sir.
I think, can we edit the agenda now?
Of course you may. Mm-hmm.
I would like to make a motion that we continue item number 73 to a future date, November 7th.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And then 69, 70, 71 were co-moved by Mr. Dingfelder, who's out
Yes.
today.
Are you suggesting we move those, sir?
Continue those to another date.
Let's do it. Okay. So we are continuing items 69, 70, and 71. And do you have a date presently, sir? Or?
What do y'all think?
Okay. We'll work on that then.
Well,
So,
if it's possible to pick a date and have it moved today so it's on notice and it's in the, it would require a motion to
Is there a
do
date
that.
where we have an opening?
how about we are in September 17th? How about the last week of October, maybe the first week of November? Is that amenable, sir?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
is that for staff to appear for a report? Because I see here, provide a report. Is that for staff to appear with the report? Questions?
Let's see, to appear and discuss, to appear and discuss, to appear and provide an update. So it would appear that they're appearing. So we have to make a decision presently so the staff doesn't appear.
Yeah.
That's the present
Yes.
motion is for an appearance and a report.
Yes.
The question, council, with regard to October, your only meeting, your last meeting in October is October 17th, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 staff reports.
Okay.
On November 7th, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 staff reports.
Okay, is November 7th okay,
Move
sir?
to November 7th.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Escalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that takes care of items, I'm sorry, 69, 70, 71,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I had asked that 28 be pulled. Do we need to make a motion on that?
And that's already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So at 10 a.m., we'll be hearing, just for everybody watching, 28, 40, and 72. So just for the record. Okay, we move, so may I have, with that being said, a motion for approval of the agenda? Yes, sir.
Just one more additional item. With regard to the walk-on that's being proposed by Salvatore Torito, did you want to take that at 10 o'clock as well?
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Shelby. We're also putting on the walk-on as well at 10 a.m., so just for the public. And, yep. Okay, so we have a motion, I believe, by Councilman Citro, I believe a second by Councilman Escalco to approve the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes,
sorry
sir.
to interrupt, just one last time for the purposes of the public. There's a 10:30 item number 67, continued public hearing relating to a vacating an alley at 608 North Nebraska Avenue. But the public should be on notice that the petitioner's representative will be requesting that that item be withdrawn.
Thank you very much,
Thank
sir. Okay, we move to ceremonial activities. Councilman Miranda for the Mayor's Hispanic Heritage Committee.
Yeah, it's my pleasure today to introduce the Mayor's Hispanic Committee. In fact, I saw them downstairs, but I was such a rush to catch the elevator that I just waved and kept on going, so my apologies to them. And they're here to tell you about the good things that are coming in the Mayor's Hispanic celebration coming up. And I appreciate very much all the work they've done throughout the years. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all, Councilman. My name is Julio Barrera. I'm the chairperson for our Mayor's Hispanic Heritage Committee. This year, we're celebrating our 31st celebration, and just would like to cordially invite you on behalf of all of our committee to come out and enjoy our festivities this year. It's October the 22nd, Tuesday from 11 to 12 o'clock. Linda Hurtado will still be our Masters of Ceremonies. Our guest speaker this year is going to be Anthony Perez. He is the Vice President of Bank of Tampa. We have some entertainment. It'll be dance groups, the Pamano para El Mundo, and then we're going to showcase some of our Parks and Recreation, Tampa Gym and Dance, and their show stars. So we'll have that going on. So we'd just like to invite you all again to come out and enjoy the festivities.
Would you please introduce the members of your committee?
Yes, we have Michelle Gonzalez, former president, if you want to.
Luz Combi,
El
Mariela
próximo?
Gomez.
Jody Escobar,
No, it doesn't bite. That thing doesn't bite. You gotta say your name. That's it. I mean, in the back,
Dwayne Estolette.
see that? He's still alive. Look at him.
And he's smiling now.
And we have a bunch more that are not able to be here with us today, but this committee puts in a lot of work throughout the year for this special event. And as you saw last year, we had a wonderful turnout. So we'd like to again invite everyone to come out to our celebration. And it'll be our new mayor's, Jane Castor's first celebration with us. So
Thank you for what you've done in the past years, and thank you for what you do today and what you're doing in the future to
Thank
keep
you.
the Hispanic committee together and doing the representation that you do year in and year out. We really appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. And I can't do it without this committee, so thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? I just wanted to thank you all for all the work that you do. I'm very proud of this city's very diverse and pluralistic history that includes our Hispanic and Latino heritage. And myself, as a proud son of Cuban refugees, I'm always very, very proud of that. So gracias para todo que ustedes hacen y Dios te bendiga.
Gracias
Thank
por
you.
todo.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, I think they want to take a photo.
They want to take a photo.
We'll do that. You can do that when it comes up.
Momento. Okay. Ahora.
Got your offer.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Chairman Vieira would like to welcome up the Medal of Honor Convention organizers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. It is my great pleasure here to have individuals representing the Medal of Honor Convention, which on October 22nd through 26th will be here in the city of Tampa. And we have various distinguished guests with us here today who we're really, really honored to have. We have the chair of the Medal of Honor Convention, Mr. Mark Vantris. We have board member, Command Sergeant Major Frank Grippy. We have the president, who we're honored to have here with us, Major General Larry Martin. We have here with media, Mr. Travis Horn, who's here. My colleague as well, as Travis is also an attorney who's smart enough to not practice law. And we also have my colleague over here, the chair for the memorial, and also my friend, Mr. Bill Mitchell, who's here. And also wanted to recognize, I would be remiss if I didn't, that we have a Brigadier General in the audience with us here today, Brigadier General Remo Butler, who's here, who's a constituent of mine and is from Quarry Lake Isles and is a very good friend of mine. So we're over here to give a Tampa City Council commendation for the 2019 Medal of Honor Convention. You know, anybody who knows anything about the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County knows that we're a very, very diverse and pluralistic area. And part of our diversity and part of our pluralism is that we have many, many veterans in this community. We have almost 100,000 veterans here in the Hillsborough County area. That doesn't include their families and their loved ones, etc. So that legacy of military service is something that is really, really a part of our community. Here in Hillsborough County, we're divided on a lot of different things, such as politics, etc. But one of the things that really, really brings us together, not just as Tampanians or Tampanos, but as Americans, is the valor and the service of our military men and women, and that is what the Medal of Honor Convention is all about. Here in the city of Tampa, we're very proud of our individuals who were the recipients of that Medal of Honor. That includes Mr. Ronald Ray, who is a graduate of the University of Tampa, who I believe is still with us. That includes from the Tampa Bay area, Mr. Paul Ray Smith, who rests right now at Arlington Cemetery. And that includes, of course, Mr. Valdemar Lopez. I always have this picture up on my wall of Lieutenant Lopez before he died in 1950, September 15th at the Battle of Incheon in Korea. So it is our great honor to give to the 2019 Medal of Honor Convention this Tampa City Council commendation for all that you do. We look forward to you all coming here. We look forward to being a part of the festivities and to celebrating the valor of our men and women. Go ahead. If you all want to speak, General.
Thank you for having us. We're excited. There are 71 living recipients of this nation's highest award of valor. We're going to be blessed come October 22nd. 48 of them will be here for a week. It'll be the largest concentration of Medal of Honor recipients since 1970. We've got week-long activities planned. Mr. Vinnick stepped up and is the presenting sponsor for our convention, so we're extremely grateful for that. We have an opening President's Breakfast on the 23rd, and you all have seats at that, so we expect you to be there to meet the world's. These are just amazing individuals. There are 3 left from World War II. Woody Williams will be here. He's 96. There are 5 from Korea. Hershey Mashirama will be here. There's just 1. We have 48 still with us from Vietnam. 38 of them will be there. We have 14 from the global war in Afghanistan. 10 of them will be here. And our most recent recipient, David Ben-Ali from Iraq, will be here as too. So it's a week-long activities. It's an amazing, we have things at the Columbia. Richard Gonsmart stepped up and is hosting a dinner at what better place than Tampa's finest restaurant. We have a game Wednesday night that the Lightning are hosting where they'll have 48 recipients on the ice to drop the puck. We're still trying to figure out which one's going to drop the puck on that one. So it's an exciting time. As he mentioned, we have our resident host recipient is Gary Luttrell. Gary Luttrell lives in St. Beach. He is a recipient from the Vietnam era. He was kind enough, this book is called Ordinary Heroes. They went out and interviewed about 10 years ago the living recipients and just talked to them, asked them their opinions, what their thoughts were. He was nice enough to sign books for each one of you. So,
That's very nice.
Command Sergeant Major, if you could give those to them. Yep, their names are on. So those are for you. He autographed it, and these are collector items because if you notice on the page here, Gary has a full head of hair. He's been bald for 30 years. Okay, so when you see him at the convention, you'll recognize. So those are for you too. In addition, we have medallions that have been struck for the convention. Major General Martin has those for you. So we're excited. As Councilman mentioned, this city sponsors and supports the military better than anyone else in the country. Hands down, hands down. You support things like the base, the honor flight. This city gets it. Okay, they're extremely appreciative of what the military has done. We're excited. We're excited to have those folks here for. You're welcome. We've given you the schedule events for the whole week. We expect to see you there. Expect you to interact with them. There's some pretty interesting folks. You're going to meet some pretty salty individuals. These recipients. So, thank you again for the proclamation. We sincerely appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you. It's about 30 days now.
Yep. Any comments or questions from
Any questions or?
We know Mr. Goods and I knows about getting bald.
Yeah. Let me just, well, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for the autographed books. Thank you very much for what you have done for our country. On the battlefield, there is no politics, there is no religion, there is nothing more than camaraderie between the men and women who fight for our country. And I will be honored to stand toe-to-toe next to these fine men who have earned the Congressional Medal of Honor, the Medal of Honor, and thank them for leaving no one behind, working to fight for saving others' lives, and working to fight for our country. I thank you, gentlemen, very much for being here.
Well, I've been really excited for this for a long time. I'm always on my computer and always reading and learning and watching documentaries and whatnot. And I know on YouTube, you find many interviews with Medal of Honor recipients. And you want to talk about true American heroes. I mean, all veterans are American heroes, but the stories that they share, it's unbelievable. And to have the opportunity to meet them, that's what I'm looking forward to. I said, I want to get pictures with the World War II guys, with the Vietnam guys, with the Korean War, to have them here in our city. And you said it, the largest group since, what, 1970?
1970, they had 300 at a convention, but back then you had almost 450 living recipients.
Yeah.
You still had some from World War I back then.
Yeah.
So this is unique. And Woody Williams will wear your you-know-what out. I mean, he's 96 years old and outlive us all.
Was he the gentleman that
Woody Williams
the
was
coin at the Super Bowl?
he likes to refer to it, I was that scrawny-ass kid from West Virginia who picked up a flamethrower. And at Operation Detachment, the Battle of Iwo Jima, in a period of 7 hours, he went through 8 flamethrowers and took out 9 pillboxes. He's 5'8", maybe 130 pounds soaking wet, and will outlive us all. So yeah, you'll get to meet Hoodie.
I look forward to meeting him and the others, and it's like celebrities. I mean, these are living legends. So.
And I was a bit remiss. We've done a character development program over the last year leading up to the convention, where we've actually gone into the schools in the 3 counties, and they've talked. We brought recipients in. We've talked about the character development program where we sit and teach the kids how to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And they get to talk to recipients about arguably what is the worst day in their life, okay? And how did you execute, what did you do? And like you said, they'll come back and say, I didn't do anything more than anyone else would. I did what I was trained to do, and then you read their citations, what they did, and you go, yeah, really? So yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're looking forward to having you all meet them all.
Great. Any other questions, comments? No? No? Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you in 30 days.
Thank you very much.
You want to get a picture and then?
Yeah, sure. Here, do y'all want to get a picture? Yeah, great. Let's do it. Sure. Let's do it. Thank you. Come on up. Yeah, here.
We can do that.
I'm gonna lighten my load.
And Dave felt it over here. Oh, that's great.
Supported by such a wonderful city.
Thank you, sir. All ready? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. I'll see you all in a couple of weeks.
Sir, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, we
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Great.
And I've got you guys.
And it's, I got casters.
You already.
But, that's fine.
We're gonna have to sort these out amongst yourselves, okay?
Here you go, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, my friend. Got it. I'll see you later.
So gentlemen, the books are person-wise, so you can sort that out after the meeting, all right? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. That's a great guy.
Thank you all. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Chairman Vieira with our very own
Thank you,
Titus
gentlemen.
O'Neill.
Thank you very much. It is my great pleasure here today to give a Tampa City Council commendation to a man who really needs no introduction, who is a great man, a man of great strength, a man of great compassion, a man of great decency. Mr. Thaddeus Bullard, otherwise known as Titus O'Neill. We're here specifically to honor this wonderful gentleman for his book, There's No Such Thing as a Bad Kid, but there's so many things that we could honor this guy for. I first had the great pleasure of meeting him during, remember the Warrior games, when you picked me up a lot, this guy actually picked me up, and I'm like 230 pounds. I'm
Signed
no,
a waiver, though.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I got 4 years to suit. No, I'm joking. So this is a gentleman who is really, really involved in the community, but this book, There's No Such Thing as a Bad Kid, really brings it all together. It talks about his remarkable life and the many, many struggles that he's had, but how in spite of the many, many different challenges and burdens that have come forward in his life, he's been able to not only make something great of himself, but help people along the way. There's a great saying, which is when you climb that ladder of opportunity and you reach the top, don't forget the people who are coming up behind you. Don't forget the people who are having same or similar struggles. This guy just doesn't not just forget about those folks, he champions them, and he champions them where they are every single day. Whether it's that student who's having a learning disability in school and is having problems passing the 10th grade, that single mom raising a kid, that minimum wage worker working at Wendy's just wanting to get ahead, that person in the working class struggling hard to make it to the middle class, Mr. Bullard has got their back time and time again. If I was to go through his list of achievements and charities, we'd be here for another 2 hours. So it goes without saying that it is a great pleasure and honor to give a Tampa City Council commendation. And this isn't just for your book. This is for all the above, for all that you do. You're an inspiration. You're one of the greatest Tampanians and Tampanos out there, and it's a real honor to know you, my friend. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I don't really know like the magnitude of like me being here today, but I can honestly say I appreciate the service of every individual in here, especially locally, that is tirelessly working to make life better for those that don't always have someone to have a voice for them. I'm not into politics, so you guys don't ever have to worry about me running against you for anything. But I'm willing to work with any and everybody that is wanting to do the right thing and is doing the right thing. There are a lot of people that talk about, making change, and there's a lot of transactional approach to making that change, but I'm into transformational approach. My life was changed because there were people that had invested in me when they had nothing to gain in return, and I'll never be able to repay those people financially. I'll never be able to repay them with a thank you, because some of them are even living today. But what I can do is exude the same love and compassion that those people from all walks of life, all religions, all races, all backgrounds, sexual orientations, to make life better for the people that don't always get that opportunity to be a champion. And one thing I've learned over time, and this is not a plug for my book, but I did talk about it in the book, but even people that come from affluent backgrounds have struggles as well. And I think that people need to start focusing on just being great human beings instead of worrying about whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're Muslim or you're Christian or you're gay or you're straight. They need to focus on the fact that we're all human beings and we should all have the same amount of dignity displayed to us, no matter where we come from and no matter where we are in life, because I truly believe in my heart that we're all one situation away from being in a worse situation. And that worst situation isn't always from a financial standpoint. Is also, anybody can be stricken. Cancer is very unapologetic in what it attacks. It'll attack someone that's a billionaire or someone that's barely struggling to pay their bills. And to see that if we're going to fight fights, I just feel like the fights that we need to start fighting are those that put our educators in a better position to live and maintain a great life. Put our parents and our families in a greater situation to be able to enjoy this life that we say that is the American dream. In some cases, a lot of people waking up to the American nightmare. And so being a person that has been on both sides of the stick, I truly appreciate this accommodation, but I just also use this time that you guys give me to, one, thank you for your service up to this point, but also, two, to push each and every individual in here to spread the message that I heard at 12 years old. There is no such thing as a bad kid. And I was told that I love you and I believe in you by a stranger from Chicago, Illinois, a white guy named Patrick Minogue, who had no reason in the world to tell me that. A lot of people had told me that they loved me and then turn around and abuse me and beat me and whatever, but nobody had ever told me that they believed in me. And it was that moment at 12 years old that really helped shape my life and change my life to start, one, believing in myself, but also believing that I can help other people be their best. And so regardless of what age you are, what demographic you come from, we all have an opportunity to make this world a better place, and you need to start at home. And Tampa is my home, and it's a city that I love, and I love everything about it, and I love every place that it's going. And I try to represent what I feel like that every person that loves this city should represent, regardless of where I'm in the world. So thank you, and for you that are Tennessee graduates, that are, if there are any in the building that are willing to admit that, go Gators, and we'll see you this weekend. Get a picture over here?
Yeah, we will, if anybody wants to.
Well, let me say this.
All right.
I understand the struggle. I understand what you say when you talk. I see you brought an old friend of mine at the end of the door, Mr. Saylor. He understands because he knows I've been out there. I understand those struggles. I know he was at Lato High School. You got him along because you have something for him. And he's going to receive that infection of success from you, even better now. But what I would say is you've done a tremendous job. Money isn't everything. Money is not everything. It's to make sure that someone has the know-how and the will to be there. Not just to give money, but to be there, to be the boots on the ground, to touch a young person, adult, anybody, to give them that infection of success. Because when a person gets the infection of success, they've got to give it to somebody else. Like you talked about cancer, they've got to give that infection to somebody else. It's important, it's vital. And every day I see you and see you with young people, giving them that infection. It's tremendous to them. You keep giving that infection of success, and it's going to blend throughout this community, out throughout the world, because I see you on Facebook all over the place. It's giving the same message, and that's key, the same message. I'm sorry I couldn't be there on Thursday for the SLY event. I know what the good work you're doing over there. I went to SLY as a young man. It was SLY Junior High School at that time. It was the 7th grade center. So I understand that community, and I'm glad that you took it upon yourself to go over there to give that community that infection of success in those kids. And I just say thank you for the work you're doing, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No? No?
And he want to get a picture up there.
Okay.
I didn't even change the screen for you.
Ricky, come on up here, man. You're one of my guys back in the day. Young brother who's really come along. Come on up here.
Go Falcons.
1, 2, 3.
Well, we were going no camera yet today.
On 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Well, listen, you and I, we got to charge for this, you know.
You can't charge it.
And you'll see it on YouTube, everything tonight. Something I don't do.
You want me to send it to you?
See that?
You know it'll be on Facebook in 10 minutes?
All right, we will now move on to public comment. If you would like to speak on any item on the agenda, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Goods.
Jim, I need to make a motion to change the date of this next commendation of Miss Ali Baguette from today until October 17th.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Goods to continue this commendation with a second from Councilman Miranda for October 17th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We will now go to public comment for real. 3 minutes to speak on any item that's on the agenda that is not set for a public hearing. Please approach the lectern and state your name and address.
Name and what?
Address.
Oh. Good morning, Council. My name is Sandra Ramirez, and I'm actually a visitor from Minnesota. But Florida is the first place my father immigrated to from Ecuador, so I'm familiar, been here many times. Here today on behalf of the preborn children of Tampa, who are murdered at a rate of over 200 each and every week. Under your watch and jurisdiction, it's time to end the bloodshed and punish those who are murdering babies in utero. You have a God-ordained duty to preserve justice and to punish evildoers. Roe v. Wade is not a law. It was and is an immoral, corrupt court opinion that is to be completely ignored. We all remember Dred Scott when the Supreme Court decided African Americans did not have the same rights as white people. Well, slavery went on for over 200 years. The Supreme Court was dead wrong about Dred Scott v. Sanford, as we all know, and they were wrong about Roe v. Wade. Article 6 of our Constitution does not declare that the Supreme Court has the supremacy. In fact, neither the federal judiciary nor the Supreme Court is even mentioned in the supremacy clause. What actually has the supremacy in the Constitution itself, which each of you took an oath to uphold, you did not take an oath of subservience to the federal government. You did not take an oath to uphold unjust or immoral court opinions by the U.S. Supreme Court. So I'm asking you to consider that. Your oath is not to the federal government, it's to uphold the U.S. Constitution. And in the very beginning of our U.S. Constitution, it states that we as a people are here to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. The preborn children in Tampa are our posterity. They are to be granted the same protections of life, liberty that postborn children have, or postborn people have in the city of Tampa. So I'm here to implore you to be a man of righteousness. God's word says that righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne, and he's put you in a position of authority to govern in his righteousness and with his justice. The Bible says that to him who knows the right thing to do and does not do it, to him it is sin. So therefore, I'm pleading with you to do your duty to criminalize abortion in Tampa, because you'll be remembered for not only what you did, but for what you did not do, because you feared man and not God. Repent, follow Christ, and he'll help you overcome your fear of criminalizing murder in the womb.
Thank you very much.
It's all right. Thank you very much, ma'am. And I want to make sure that everybody who's standing is here for public comment. And is there anyone else? This is your time. If you're going to be speaking on any item on the agenda that is not a quasi-judicial matter, please stand up and make yourself known so that we can know for purposes of time. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, Tampa Council. My name is Diana Klein. I'm here on behalf of our preborn neighbors in Tampa that are being murdered every week. And on what Sandra said, I want to piggyback on that when she's referring to basically nullifying a corrupt moral opinion that we know of as Roe v. Wade. I have two examples. One of them is back an incident that happened right here in Tampa in 1960 when Inez Anderson, who still lives here in Tampa, during the segregation laws, she did a sit-in with some other students from the high school and to defy the Jim Crow laws that were here in the South. And that was an example of nullifying the state and progressing into a direction to throw out that unjust, immoral Jim Crow laws. The other example of nullification is in ignoring any incorrupt and immoral law or opinion of the court is back in 1850 there was a Fugitive Slave Act in place that was enacted by the U.S. Supreme Court. There was an incident where Joshua Glover in 1854 had escaped from his slave owner, and he fled to Wisconsin, and the federal agents went to arrest him, and there was an abolitionist, Sherman Booth, who got word that this slave, Joshua, was going to be arrested and then taken back to his slave owner. And he rallied all of the people that were in that distance from Racine, Wisconsin to Milwaukee, where he was going to that jail. And all of those people rallied together to break him out of jail. And he was able, through the Underground Railroad, he was able to escape to Canada, where he led out the rest of his life in freedom in Canada. And what happened was, as a result of that, Booth was brought up on criminal charges for violating that Fugitive Slave Act. Fortunately, Booth had an attorney who defended him in court, arguing that the Fugitive Slave Act was unconstitutional and therefore void. The state Supreme Court in Wisconsin agreed and then acquitted Booth, which therefore made the Fugitive Slave Act was nullified in the state of Wisconsin. Therefore, you men here can take the same posture in Tampa to defy the immoral, corrupt law and opinion, or not a law, but it's an opinion of the Supreme Court, to establish and enforce an ordinance that will criminalize the murder in the womb. I implore you to be righteous men and criminalize abortion now. God's love, mercy, and justice demand this from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next, please. And before our next speaker comes up, at 10 a.m., we're going to break for staff. So anybody who is here still for public comment, you're going to have to wait until after the staff reports are done, which could take 10, 20, 30 minutes, what have you. Usually from now on, we're going to be having folks from first for public comment who are actually here for a specific item in the agenda, then folks for general comment afterwards, but we didn't begin that way today, so we'll just start that next week. Go ahead, sir.
Mentisna, Tampa, Florida. For the people who are talking about abortion, most men who control legislatures or anywhere, they're not going to do anything about abortion because most of them have women on the side. They get them pregnant and they need those abortions. Most of them dirty, they nasty, they got nasty politics and nasty personalities. And that's another subject. But for the record, we always have to know that this city council, the city councils before it, going back to when the city of Tampa was formed, 1855, nothing, absolutely, positively nothing for African people. Nothing. Treat us like dirt. Treat us like scums. Treat us like bastards. Treat us like people, like dummies. Treat us like ignoramus. $1 billion budget. A $1 billion budget. And what is it for 26% of the population? We're 26% of this population. What is it in that budget for 26% of the black population? Absolutely, positively nothing. Cornbread, collard greens, chitlins, while the white people have Venick and all downtown and Bayshore and everywhere else. What's in it for us? And this city council who project themselves to be liberal and nice and democratic and peace-loving and all the other kind of stuff. They look over that. Nobody have ever said in the history of Tampa from 1855 to the present day, nothing for African people, but a bunch of games and gimmicks and garbage. Garbage. Get a home for $1, get a Section 8, do all this other welfare stuff. We as African people have to know and understand 600 years of injustice, and people like y'all is part of it. You can sit and run out and get the vote and tell the people all kind of craziness when you're trying to get a vote. And once y'all get in these offices, you do absolutely, positively nothing for the poor and working class. It's not just African people you do nothing for. It's absolutely, positively nobody unless a developer comes with their hands out and they run the city from the top down. We've been flooding in Bayshore forever. On Gandy, on Henderson, forever. On Del Mabry and other places in South Tampa forever. Nothing. And it's not a racial issue. And it is solid people in here that do a lot for people, and Miss Maud right here. She have been representative of doing very good in the community and doing things for my kids and other kids in District 5 silently. Man, don't try to talk over me, man.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, please.
My name is Pastor Frank Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street, Paradise Missionary Baptist Church. And we come down here day after day, week after week, year after year, trying to get some results, but y'all don't give us no results whatsoever. I'm going to read something to y'all, let y'all know that y'all don't care nothing about certain people. And that's called the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government are instituted among men deriving from their just power, from the consent of the governor, that whenever any form of government become destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. And I must tell y'all, we need new government from Washington, D.C. all the way down to the garbage truck, because you're not doing justice for people of certain color. And that's what we all about. You know what? We have to understand. We didn't create ourselves. God Almighty created all of us. Whether you're ugly, whether you're black, whether you're white or not, it makes no difference. Now, I was riding down 22nd Street. Y'all take prime property that belong to black folks and call them retention pond. And I was riding down 22nd Street, some prime property down there where we could build some in and everything. And I'm wondering why do y'all just consider the East Tampa a retention pond? You don't worry about West Tampa, don't worry about Ebo City, but I guarantee you when you come down in the black neighborhood, you convert our property into retention pond, and that ain't right. We're supposed to do justice for all people, respect all people. Don't just look at certain people because they got a few dollars in the bank, or we're going to respect you more than we respect anybody else. That ain't the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to love everybody, regardless of the color of their skin and where they come from. Now, I would like to ask you all a question. What are we going to do about the Bahama people that lost everything? Can we let them come into Tampa? I know what the president say. They have to have a Visa card. How many of them got a Visa card? You're going to treat them worse than you're treating the blacks here in the United States of America. But one thing we got to do, keep our trust in Almighty God and keep praying. Everything going to work out in our favor.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, please.
Thank God for y'all. I know y'all are not listening to me, but thank God for y'all.
Name is John Mall, 4104 North Lynn Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I'm speaking here about stormwater mitigation that I've been trying to get and still trying to get it and will still try to get it till I get it. What I'm reading here is a memorandum through the chair from Janice McLean, and this was at a time when the staff was required to appear but not discuss. So nothing in this I don't think was discussed, but maybe some of you have read it. And the pertinent point is 5 paragraphs. In the first paragraph, it says that as the stormwater assessments are user charges, there are no exceptions or exemptions. Is that a true statement? I think you would like to get true information from your staff. 5 houses down from me, there's a LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, doesn't pay 1 cent on 7/10 of an acre. And so I think that's an exemption. That all the New Tampa, is that an exemption? They don't pay anything. The billionaires on Harbor Island don't pay anything. That seems to be another exemption. And they have what you call a mitigation credit that says parcels with no off-site discharge of stormwater to the city system will get 100% mitigation credit. Do you mean that? I don't think anybody... I've been trying to get it. I've done everything I can to comply with what the requirements are to get that, trying to stop the stormwater runoff, and I've done it. It's direct observation of any of you could verify that. The next paragraph is that I have written a letter explicitly stating what the malls have to do to demonstrate the property does not discharge to the city system. Is anybody interested in what that happens to be? Well, it seems like one of the things that could be done is for me to engage a PE to come out and verify that water doesn't run uphill. And what does the PE want for that? $6,000. Well, I don't think that's a reasonable request. Anybody can look at my property and pour some water in it and it doesn't run off the property. My property is like a bowl or a pond. It flows into this pond. So again, I hope, all I want is mitigation credit, and I hope that maybe, last time I was here, they said you could amend the ordinance to perhaps help homesteaders get the mitigation credit they deserve. So perhaps some of you, would anyone there offer a motion to do that?
And Marty, is this is in litigation, correct?
No, sir. My understanding is that I know that Mr. Maul is represented by counsel. Mr.
Or
Torito, is there anything else you wish to add?
represented
And that being the case, the rule does state that counsel should avoid any discussion of matters at a public meeting where the city is or is likely to be a party in litigation without the concurrence of counsel.
Okay.
I have not litigated anything. I'm just asking for mitigation for
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Next, please.
Good morning. My name is Susan Morgan, and I'm representing Grace Point at address 5707 North 22nd Street. And we have some folks here from the Seminole Heights East Neighborhood Association, and to respect your time, we decided to make a collective statement. We are here today referencing 5610 East Henry Avenue, and that parcel is was approved for zoning as a medical marijuana treatment center as well as a processing and distribution center. And I don't believe that when Floridians voted for medical marijuana that they had intended for this type of property, for medical marijuana processing to be in such close proximity to a mental health and substance abuse treatment center and or close proximity to residential properties. The state of Florida has determined that a processing facility can be up to 100,000 square feet. That is the equivalency of 3 football fields. So when you think about what can be produced on 3 football fields in close proximity to residential properties as well as a treatment center, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think it was, people just didn't think ahead about it. So I'm here today, as well as our neighbors, to ask that if it's not currently in the zoning, it says it can be in industrial areas, it shouldn't be in mixed-use neighborhoods. So maybe we need to go back and relook at that. The other thing is you already have a copy of this report that you it's on the agenda today. I would like to say that there's between 60 to 70 cities or counties that have already banned any future medical marijuana dispensaries. I'm not saying that's the answer, maybe a moratorium. I understand that the state of Florida, the Florida legislature has regained most of the control on this, but I think that stepping back and saying there's nothing we can do is not the answer as well. And at the end of this report, it says, I apologize, the city could also be exposed to liability for the infringement of existing property rights due to the investment-based expectations of those who have purchased property and reliance on the fact that and you guys can read the rest of it. What about folks such as Grace Point that's been in this community for 70 years? Think about the investment that we have put forth. Are we going to take the consideration of those that are not even from Tampa, not even from Florida, that are moving here from other states, and we're going to put them ahead of folks that are already in this community? So I just ask kindly that saying nothing we can do is not the answer. Maybe a task force, maybe going to these other cities and counties and asking what they have done. And finally, to my knowledge, and I've done just limited research, none of these cities or states have been sued, and there's no litigation as to those decisions. It is an option under the Florida legislature. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, you want? Oh, yes. Go ahead, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And anyone else here for public comment, just to make sure? Mr. Grandolph? Okay. And I want to make sure, is staff here yet for 28 and 24 and 40? Oh, Mr. Grandolph, she was first.
Please go ahead.
Is anyone here from staff on 28 or 40? Oh, here we go. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm good? Okay. Good morning, City Council members. I'm Ellen Snelling, and I'm a parent of a daughter in recovery. I'm also a member of several substance abuse prevention groups. And I would like to thank Councilman Goods and all members of the City Council for looking further into the medical marijuana businesses in our city and how to possibly restrict those so they will not be in our vulnerable neighborhoods. And that'll be discussed in item 72 today. As Susan mentioned, and I'm passing out a handout, I've done research on this, and there are approximately 65 to 70 cities and counties across the state that have already banned medical marijuana dispensaries. I know Plant City and Temple Terrace are right here in Hillsborough County. They both have banned, and I attend almost every Temple Terrace City Council meeting, and there's never been any mention of any litigation. So I know that's a concern for the city of Tampa, but so far other cities and counties have not experienced that. Amendment 2 is silent on the ability of cities and counties to ban. So there's nothing in the amendment that says that they can't ban. And our legislature clearly said that cities and counties may ban medical marijuana dispensaries. So there's a good example of one city, it's Lake Worth, it's on the other coast, and they had 2 dispensaries open up and decided that was enough for them, so they banned future dispensaries. So that is something that at least can be considered. They did that a year ago, and so far, again, I've never heard of any litigation over that. If a city does ban new dispensaries, they grandfather in all the other ones, so there's no problem with the ones that are already open. Another thing to consider is moratoriums. That's more of a temporary ban, and that could be, if you have a reason. I'm sure legal department knows all about this, but it's something that could be considered, and in fact, City of Tampa has had a moratorium on medical marijuana dispensaries prior. So there's a group called Marijuana Policy Group, and they're actually an industry consultant, and they came up with a optimal number of medical marijuana dispensaries per population. So they said 1 dispensary per 67,222. And Tampa has a population of just under 400,000 according to the 2018 census. So that would come out, I did my math already, 6 total. We already have 7, and that's one of the handouts that I sent you. It shows that there's 7 dispensaries already in Tampa. So we're already over that optimal limit. So another thing to keep in mind is that recreational marijuana is going most likely be on the ballot. The people that are pushing that ballot initiative are medical marijuana industry. So all of your medical marijuana shops could also become recreational, something to keep in mind. Then we have the vaping crisis. A lot of the vape oil crisis has to do with marijuana. So would the city have any liability if someone purchased vape oil at a medical marijuana dispensary and got sick?
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate it. And Mr. Randolph, we were going to be beginning at 10 a.m. staff reports, but since you're the last one and your item is in fact on the agenda, come forward, then Mr. Snelling will in 3 minutes.
I'll be very brief.
I'm sorry, what, sir?
I'll be very, very brief.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, good morning, and members of the City Council and Council. My name is John Grandoff, Suite 3700, Bank of America Plaza. I spoke about 2 weeks ago about the medical marijuana permitting next to Grace Point. I raised an issue as to the notice, and I showed you the notice that was provided. After further review of that notice and of the file, the notice was adequate, though not perfect, but I have no issue with the notice. And further, I did find in the file a letter that had been written from Grace Point's executive, Joe Rutherford, that was filed with that application. So I want to let you know that those processes were followed and evaluated by Mr. Cotton and Ms. Coyle in their deliberations. I've also reviewed Ms. Zellman's thorough memo to you. It is very well reasoned, and I have no dispute with it. I would offer, however, that I believe you can pass further regulations going further and vest or grandfather existing sites, and they would be protected. They would literally be frozen in time. And I'll just, as an example, there's an auto repair station in Port Tampa that's in the middle of a residential neighborhood. It's been there forever, but it's a vested grandfathered use. There's a farm down near Port Tampa that's a vested grandfather use. So these non-conforming uses can be frozen in time and protected under the Constitution, but you can pass further distance regulations to protect facilities like Grace Point and others. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Okay, next we move onward to item for our 10 a.m. Item number 28, which was pulled, and Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I don't need a staff report. Sorry, I just wanted to vote against it, so that's why I pulled it out of there.
Okay. So Mr. Shelby, when we do consent agenda items, I will, I guess, Mr. Carlson, I guess you'll probably want to hand the gavel over for that one to Mr. Maniscalco, or maybe vote.
Yes, that would be
vote no.
Actually, my suggestion would be that would be the appropriate way to do it under Robert's rules.
Okay, when we get
pass
there.
the gavel.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next, item number 40.
Good morning, Council. Tom Snelling, Director of Planning and Development. Item number 40 is it's an owner-occupied rehab program. It was awarded to East Tampa Business and Civic Association. Basically, the owner-occupied rehab program is to effect emergency repairs to citizens that are in need, of various roofing, electrical, plumbing, mold issues, things like that, that could affect the health and safety of the people living in there. This award was for up to $1 million utilizing SHIP, home, and CDBG money. And it implements what we have called out in our 5-year consolidated plan as well as our local housing assistance plan. Previously, there had been approved, the other awardee of this RFP for the same amount of money, $1 million, was East Tampa, or CDC of Tampa, Ernest Coney's organization, to do the exact same thing. That was approved previously. This agreement is identical to that, except it's for the East Tampa Business and Civic Association. So,
Mr. Seller, thank you for coming and sharing this. I'm all for this type of program because I think a lot of problems in some of our blighted communities are a result of a lack of rehabbing. And I believe that we need more money going to rehab in our communities. But I want you to kind of explain the program as it relates to criteria, how one can be a part, because that seems to be an issue. When I hear people call and say they can't get through, or they don't understand the process, or how come they don't qualify. And I think as a marketing tool, we need to let people know about this program so we can get people qualified, or look at what criteria that's hurting people to get people qualified. Can you just explain some of the qualifications to get this money, to get this rehab done?
Yes, sir. The first qualification, first and foremost, you have to be income qualified and a senior, over 65 years old. Once you're income qualified, it's based on the HUD standards for area median income. Typically, it's 50% AMI, and it goes forward from there. You make a point, we're trying to, part of some of the other improvements we're doing is make it a little bit more transparent on our webpage, have some more FAQ type stuff on our webpage so people can see that and understand how they qualify. The income qualifications have everything to do with whether or not you qualify for the program. Unfortunately, some people they make too much money and they're not qualified. So we have to follow the HUD guidelines on income qualification of 50 or 80% AMI and part of a senior. Those income qualifications or criteria to qualify for a loan is spelled out on our webpage, and perhaps it could be a little bit clearer, and we can certainly take a look at improving that for sure. Again, and it cannot be used for like luxury kinds of items. It's strictly for emergency repairs, major emergency repairs, roofing, electrical systems, AC, hazardous electric, exterior deterioration, window replacement, water heater, lead-based remediation. So it's those kinds of things that are really hurting individuals. You can't say, I'd like to remodel my den or something like that. It has to be specifically related to that. And we monitor that very closely. You know, we go out, we'll do a scope. Well, we enter into an agreement with one of the not-for-profits, in this case, CDC of Tampa and East Tampa Business and Civic Association, and they'll go out, they'll write up a scope of work. We review that scope of work, we review that scope of work to make sure that it hits all of those types of criteria, and then we approve it. And they're allowed to spend up to $30,000 per unit. In the unfortunate cases when sometimes the repair is more than that, they have to then use home funds, because when you're using SHIP and CDBG funding, you don't have to bring the entire unit up to current code. You can make individual isolated repairs to that, with other parts of the house still not being up to what is typically required in the code. When you use CDBG monies or home monies, you have to bring that stuff up to code. The entire unit has to then be brought up to code. Those tend to be more expensive. That's why the money for home, we have less home money in this pot. We have $100,000 of that money in there compared to $500,000 for SHIP and, $400,000 for CDBG. I agree with you. I have less money than people in need. We're working on other things to try to stretch our dollar. That's why some of the recent changes we made were specifically for emergency kinds of things. And the other thing, so someone doesn't come in, not that this has happened in my recollection, it's in the form of a down payment or a deferred mortgage payment. And it lasts for 5 years, has a 5-year lien, if you will, on the property. If the person who is living there stays in the thing after 5 years, the first day after that, it's completely forgiven. If unfortunately they pass in that time, the person, whoever occupies that unit back has to be income qualified to take advantage of not having to pay off that lien. Sometimes family members will come back in, or the children that are living with their grandmother or their mom or dad or whoever it was, they'll take over the house and they have to be income qualified. I don't know that it's ever happened where someone has left and had to repay this particular type of down payment assistance.
I'm hopeful and prayerful that with the mayor's new housing board, and hopefully with suggestions from your housing department, that we look at trying to find dollars that are not with some of the SHIP fundings and have all these stringent criteria in HUD, to where we have a special fund that we can kind of make and curtail our own kind of criteria to help people that are not 65. There are a lot of people who may be 45 who have a home, or inherited a home, but they can't do what they need to do to make it livable to where it should be livable. So I'm just hoping in the future that yourself and your department will make these suggestions to the mayor and actually the board and some of the CAC boards to say, hey, could you develop a program to help some of these blighted areas with people who are struggling to be in a home? I just think that's a key component. I like that we have something, but we have to do a little bit more, and I'm hoping that you'll carry the baton to the mayor's office and to the board and to some of these CACs to say we need a fund. If the CAC boards can come to the CRA board and say we have our own special fund for this that doesn't have all these stringent criteria from HUD and SHIP and all these other programs, I think that'll be good. Also, if we had another way of funding within the city itself to where we can have funds and have our own type of criteria to help our citizens, I think that's going to be the new foundation that we've got to try to build, and hopefully you'll take that back. But I do appreciate the program that we do have, but it's just not enough, though.
Okay. And I'm anxious to see what comes out of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, because the first two that I sat in on, this was a topic of conversation. So I think they're trying to come up with also to recommend creative ways to expand existing programs and to fund existing programs in a different fashion too. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that as their final report and recommendations.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilson.
Just partly related question. Under the last administration, the city spent a lot of money and time on the Envision plan for downtown, so whatever you call it, a vision plan or a master plan. Has the city done anything like that, or is it planning on doing anything like that for East Tampa, North Tampa, South Tampa, West Tampa? My problem with all these independent pieces is I don't see how they all fit together, what the overall master plan is.
The master plan for our housing is outlined in a 5-year consolidated plan. It sets out the goals and objectives and how you have to move on it. And then also the local housing assistance plan that's updated every year. It serves basically it serves as our strategic plan to implement these things. So from a housing perspective, we follow that 5-year plan, and it's updated. Council, we had to recently amend it. If you recall, just a couple of meetings ago, we had to amend both of those plans because although it recognized that we could use federal money to purchase property for affordable housing, that wasn't identified as one of our goals. So we had to go in there and make that amendment. You did that, thank you. And now we're able to purchase those other properties with using those monies in order to expand our inventory of affordable housing potential.
Do you know on a higher level, though, just something equivalent to the Envision plan? Is there anything like that or anything that works like that for any other part of the city besides downtown?
Well, we have a comprehensive plan that works for the rest of the city. And in that comprehensive plan, it talks about the various types of districts and sections, the redevelopment areas, development areas, preservation areas. Something identical to the Envision plan? No, sir.
Okay.
But the comprehensive plan it's very comprehensive. I mean, it really does cover a lot, and we do everything we can do to make sure that our codes and policies follow that plan.
And my comment's not a criticism. I just the way I think is to try to think holistically. You know, what's our plan for the city comprehensively, and then what is our plan for different pieces of it, and then and what are our goals, and then how do the sub plans fit into it. And you know, I mentioned before, I used to live in Singapore. Singapore would publish a book every year of what their vision was for the whole city. And it covered all the major areas. And I don't know if we could ever get to something like that. And this is an offline conversation we can have. But I think it's easier for the constituents in the community to know and rally around something if we have specifics. It's one thing to say we're going to be a great city, but if we actually have a plan to achieve it, I think it'll be easier for people to buy in. Same thing, remember with the cycling issue on Bay to Bay. The problem was that the people who were driving, who were against it, didn't know what the overall plan for cycling was. And so now we're talking about trying to create a citywide bicycle plan and map. Anyway, I'll talk to you about it offline. Just that's the way I think.
Anything else? Item 40. Okay. Thank you very much,
Council,
sir.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the walk-on item.
Sal Torito, Legal Department. As you recall, we had an item that came before you on the CRA, and there's a bit of confusion on whether it should come back before the City Council. This is the project where we're piggybacking onto another project that is being done by a developer so we can get some of our work done in a more rapid way. So we're asking you to approve this one since you did approve it last week. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to go into more detail. But if this is a routine kind of a matter, the CRA is paying for this, not the city per se. This is coming out of CRA funding.
Mm-hmm. Any questions from council? Councilman Maniscalco.
And this is the tower project that's going in by the Stratus.
Correct.
And when does construction, is it set to be, you know, if and when this is approved here, this is the final step to get it moving forward?
On this particular project, this is nothing to do, this is nothing, the confusion is coming in, it looks like it's getting involved with the other part of the project. What you were told last week is they wanted to get this done as quickly as they can so it doesn't hold up the Straz's November opening for some of their shows. They want to get this done as quickly as possible. So if it gets approved today, they can move quicker and get the construction out of the way before it interferes with the programs that are being established that are being set up by the Straz. So that's where we are right now. It's a fairly rapid program.
And other than that, there's nothing else really to vote on in the future for the actual
On this particular one, no. All you're doing is the funding for paying for that particular construction. This is not really something with the Straz itself, and that's where some of the confusion came up. Okay. This is them doing something for us while they're in the vicinity doing work on their own project.
All right. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do we, move the resolution, or do we?
You approve the resolution authorizing the expenditure.
Okay. Anyone interested in making that motion?
So moved for the resolution.
Second.
We have a motion. Thank you very much. We have a motion by Councilman Citro, second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And if I may, I don't.
Yes.
You can correct me. Wait till the end. We were talking about with the department just came in and gave a briefing on monies that are available for people who really are in need. At the end of the meeting, I'm going to bring up something that I saw in the newspaper that really bothers me, and it was about PACE. And with that, attached that, you get money, but it's attached to your ad valorem taxes. And you have a problem there, you might lose your house, and I'm totally against that. But I'll bring this up later.
Thank you, Councilman Miranda. And I believe also Ms. Zellman is here for 72. Do you want to do that one now, ma'am? Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Good morning, Andrea Zellman, Legal Department. I want to first apologize for the length of my staff report. I did lean toward the lengthy legal memo, and I apologize, but I did think it was important. The question that was asked about the particular medical marijuana treatment facility was rather broad, and some of the other follow-up questions in the motion were broad as well, and I didn't want to leave anything out. Just, in sum, the question was a question about the particular facility on East Henry near 22nd Street. And as I explained, that particular facility was the subject of a formal decision letter issued by the zoning supervisor, and it found that because the facility was zoned IG, was within 500 feet of a school, that it could be operated at that location. And then to the next question, which was, can anything be done to prevent these from being opened at other locations? That was where I went into the history that's already been discussed a little bit previously, which was that there was, of course, a state constitutional amendment where 71.3% of Florida voters voted to make medical marijuana more available to those people that have been prescribed it for very serious medical conditions. And this council in 2017 weighed the question of how to legislate with the limited power that you're given by the state. Again, as I go into in great detail in the memo, the state has largely preempted what local governments can do. With regard to cultivating and processing facilities, the only thing the city can do is limit them to be not located within 500 feet of a school. With respect to dispensing facilities, the city did have the option to outright ban them, but once the city made the decision to not ban them, again, you were very limited in what you could do in terms of location, again, primarily no more than 500 feet from a school. And since the question that seems to be resonating the most is, well, could you ban them now? I did try to address that. And again, I would ask you to do what I did, which was go back to 2017 and read the transcripts, because some of you were not on the city council at the time, some of you were. And there was a very emotional and heated discussion then, but the council did vote to have these medical marijuana dispensing facilities in order to provide the availability of it to people with serious medical conditions. And the recommendation the legal department's making at this time is that it would we would caution you not to try to retroactively impose a ban now. Again, we have facilities that are already operating and would become non-conforming uses. We would have people who have purchased property, again, with the expectation that they can open them, and we would be jeopardizing their property rights. And there is still a question as to whether a ban would survive a legal challenge. And I would note that, yes, many cities, and I think they've said something like 60 cities in Florida chose to ban it, but there's over 400 incorporated municipalities in the state of Florida, so the vast majority did do what the city of Tampa did, which was not ban these facilities. And again, I think, our bottom line is we're recommending that you not even consider imposing a ban or a moratorium at this time. Again, one of the final things I would say is you only have the option to ban dispensing facilities. The city never has and does not have the option to ban cultivating and processing facilities. So for instance, the one on East Hannah, which is both, it's primarily a cultivating and processing facility, and they've also asked to be allowed to distribute there, it would not go away if you were to ban dispensaries, because again, it's also planning to do cultivating and processing. So I'm glad to answer any questions. Just wanted to
Any
explain
questions?
that.
Councilman Coots. A little confused. Yes, sir. The proposed property right now will be both cultivating, selling, and so forth. And you say that you don't recommend a ban on anything. And I don't know if it's because we're fearful of a lawsuit or what have you, but the problem I have is that if people want to get marijuana, I think there's certain places or areas they can get it from. So as a city and as a councilman and listen to constituents, and I drove by that area, and to put that type of facility where we have a police communications center next to it, where we have a apartment complex with hundreds of children at a bus stop, where we have a mental health center, a drug treatment centers, 2 behavioral schools, a Head Start program. As a councilman and as a citizen who lives in the area, I don't see how we cannot address some issues on this, knowing the fact that we have a street that is full of services to communities and viable services. And I look at a police communication center, a fire and police, and just looking at having that type of facility in some of the crime areas we do have in that area, I think that's going to bring on more to that community. I think they're going to have security on that property, real security. And to me, that's a problem when I've already got some challenges in the district, and I just look at possible robbery, possible attempts on this place that's cultivating this kind of stuff, having an open area sales. I just saw in the paper that somebody, another favorite place, people are robbing these places now. I just look at, we have to find a solution. We can't just say do nothing. We have to say, well, what can we do? So I'm looking for legal to say, what can we do? Not, let's not do nothing. So those are the answers that I'm looking for. What can we do moving forward? If we can't stop the ones who are already in service as these dispensaries, that's fine, I understand that. But going forward, we have to do something to say to the citizens, we hear your cry, because to me, you have a lot of children in that area. A lot of people who have a lot of mental and physical disabilities. And I just don't want to hear, let's do nothing. I want to see if we can find some solutions so the citizens are happy too, and not just saying, we don't want to do anything.
Thank you. Councilman Miranda, then Councilman Citro, then Councilman Maniscalco, and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along, Ms. Summit, what just Mr. Goods was starting to say and continuing so on that same idea. You have dispensaries, and then you have the actual manufacturing of it. Can we do anything regarding the dispensaries in this same location? Or the prescription of the buying of it right there?
Did you want me to answer now or wait until everyone was done?
Well, no, whatever.
Again, and just to make clear, and I certainly hope that no one thinks I'm being insensitive to the concerns
I know
of
you
this
are.
particular community. I'm just trying to explain with regard to, in answer to Councilman Good's question, with regard to cultivating and processing facilities, the state really did tie your hands. We cannot ban those in the city. The city attempted to limit them really as much as we could by limiting them to only industrial zoning districts, which limits them to a very small portion of the city. And unfortunately, in this case, that was the property at issue was zoned industrial. Again, with regard to dispensaries, the city did have the option and does have the option under the statute to ban them citywide. Our concern at this point is the city expressly chose not to do that in 2017. People went forward, built facilities, people went forward, purchased property to open dispensaries, and we're concerned that if you now, after the fact, went back and banned them going forward, we'd be opening ourselves to litigation.
Part B of that question, can the limit of distance be changed, or is that constitute part of a legal?
The 500 feet distance from the schools is actually in the Florida statutes. So I guess in answer to the question of what more can we do, as I mentioned, Councilman Goods at the CRA meeting, to some extent people need to take these concerns to the legislature. And maybe perhaps revisit the legislation, because it's the legislation.
So even if we
that
can't ban
limited.
it, so even if we can't ban, so even if we can't ban the industrial, because in the industrial area, we can't say we don't want or change our what's the right word I want to use, reference if it's in an industrial area, but that industrial area has these type of other facilities in it. We can't make an option to say not banning, but it can't be there because of these other things that are in this particular area of that industrial area.
Are we talking about the cultivating and processing now, or the dispensing?
The cultivating and processing.
Again,
So
I believe the language in the statute that says that the only thing you can do is require that it not be within 500 feet of a school is all we can do. We can go back and see if there's anything else creative we can think about within the parameters of the statute. But on initial read and initial research, unfortunately, I believe the answer is no.
Does it fit in the overlay of the East Tampa overlay for that facility to be there?
Whether it's inconsistent with the East Tampa Overlay District, I don't know, but the state statute would have trumped that anyway.
Councilman Miranda, do you have any more
No, I'm
questions?
finished.
Councilman Citro, Maniscalco.
Sal, you won't have to get up. Don't worry, I'll control myself on this one. Councilman Goods and Councilman Miranda brought up some very great points and asked for a great request. From this point on, what do we do? And I'm not going to keep harping on that. What I'm going to suggest that the people that do not want to see this type of thing, Sal, I'll watch my P's and Q's. Please contact your state representatives. Contact your state senators. This is another infringement upon local rule, where our cities and municipalities around the state of Florida cannot do what they feel best. Take the handcuffs off of us, and let us do what we do best. Contact your state representatives and your state senators. Home rule. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Councilman Maniscalco.
Several years ago, as these kinds of topics regarding marijuana, medical marijuana, decriminalization, all that stuff have come up, I've made my comments known. I'm always very supportive, but there's a right and wrong place to put something. You know, in communities that have challenges, for example, East Tampa, where you have schools, where you have so many children living nearby, where's the common sense in this? I mean, really, you know, it's nothing against medical marijuana in general, and I understand, you know, people need it. There are people that need it, people that, you know, use it and whatnot. And I had personal stories about family members with cancer. You know, if they had access to it, would that have eased their suffering? Not cured them, but would they have been more comfortable? But beyond that, you know, in a neighborhood where you have a police, you know, the communication center, you have so many children, you have bus stops, you have, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's like putting a liquor store, you know, where an AA meeting is taking place. I mean, why, you know, Grace Point and whatnot, they're trying to give people help, treatment, whatever it is, and then they have this, you know, this temptation right there. And also with the safety issue. I believe it might be in the paper today, a gentleman in Bradenton was killed at a vape shop. I don't know if I read that right, but that's something else, you know, and people are getting robbed. So a facility of this caliber that would require the security, that has, you know, I mean, I don't know, it's just out of place. And as Councilman Citro said, you know, it's always, Tallahassee knows best. They're always binding our hands and putting the handcuffs on us as to what we can do. What's the point of having our own government if the capital of the state of Florida is going to dictate what we can and can't do? I mean, that's silly. Why have ordinance? Why have laws where we have to now instead make excuses as to why we can't do something? So that's it. Thank you.
And I want to, excuse me, Ms. Selman, this facility, is there going to be marijuana there? I mean, what exactly? Just to clarify, what is going to be there exactly?
Having read the application, all I can say is that they asked for the ability to cultivate, process, and distribute.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
All three.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, just to confirm that. You know, one issue, and there's a lot of good sentiments that have been had here, but one issue that I think we always have to be careful on, which is that we're also dealing with something that is a medicine for people, and we have to be careful to not inadvertently, through the zoning process, shame people for using medicine that is something that is necessary. And I'm not saying anybody here is doing that, but we just have to be careful how we frame this issue. The larger issue to me really here is the way that our country and our community has responded to the issue of marijuana in the last 40 or 50 years. You know, I come to this as a person, I've never used drugs in my life. I just never have. It's not something that I've ever used, but the punitive nature that we've had on marijuana as a larger issue in our country is something that has really been acute on many of our communities. I think that's really the larger issue that we're dealing with here. As far as I'm concerned, when it comes to this particular facility, there's a lot of community concerns, obviously, that we have to listen to. What legally we can do as to this particular facility, we'll see what happens with that, obviously. But I think there's just a larger issue that is relevant, in my opinion, as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I do respect your leadership and your opinion. And I don't think this board is trying to waiver anything from anybody who needs this product for a medical reason. I don't have an issue with that. The only issue I have with this particular building, what is going to go there, it will probably be a detriment to the community that's already trying to help people and trying to get out of poverty and trying to get a crime rate in place. And when I look at this particular product, and I look at the thousands of black folks that are in prison today for less than 20 grams of marijuana, and now it's an open season, marijuana is the thing. It's nothing but a gateway to legalizing it, and people making money. We found a way to make money. But yet, in those other communities who were trying to make money to make a living, it was illegal and went to prison. And now we're going to legalize it so somebody else can make money. That's how it goes. But my big thing is, and I'm going to make a motion soon, at the end, I know we got these new procedures, but I need staff to go back and look at how can we help our constituents with this issue. Let's find a solution. Let's find a way to do something. We can't not do anything.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know that Chair always has last words, so please, thank you very much. I don't want people to be confused by my statement, Sal. Don't worry about it. I know, but I see he's about ready to. Poor guy. I have no problem with people that want to use marijuana. That is not the legalization of medical marijuana. Yes, there are people that are helped by it. People on chemo, people with autism. I understand that. And even I have no problem with medical marijuana. That is not a problem. I would be a hypocrite if I did from my past. But our zoning needs to be reflective of the community. And that's where I want my point to be heard. Has nothing to do with marijuana. It's just where it's to be sold. Yeah. That is my point. So I want to make sure that the public is clear about that. Again, there are people in our community that could use the effects of marijuana for their illnesses. I don't want to be confused in that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And I agree 100%, Councilman. Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else? Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you want to tell the public what your motion will be, if that's what folks are here, I have no problem with that without making it.
Well, that motion is going to be that staff goes back and find, that motion will be later on, that staff come back and look at our zoning, and look at the criteria and find a solution in reference to this issue arising in our community. We've got to find a solution to this issue going forward. If there's nothing we can do about a current situation, but going forward, it'll be let's find some solutions to put on the books.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, and yes, sir. Oh, you sure? Oh, okay. Are there any requests by the public for reconsideration of legislative matters? Okay, being none, we go forward to committee reports, consent agenda. Item number 5, an ordinance. There is no need to get public comment or staff on this since this is a first reading. And Councilman Carlson, do you, sir, mind taking item number 5?
File number E2019-8 CH27, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to definition of height, kennels, and revocation or suspension of alcoholic beverages, making revisions to City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 27, Zoning and Land Development, amending Section 27-43, definitions, amending Section 27-282.25, kennels, small amending section 27-282.26, kennel large, amending section 27-318, expiration, suspension, and revocation of approvals for alcoholic beverage sales, posting of notice for discontinuance of sales, evidence of resumption of sales, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective
Second.
date.
We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we go to,
Chair. Chair.
I'm sorry.
Second reading and adoption will be held on October 17, 2019 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Next we go to Public Safety Committee. Councilman Citro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move item agenda 6 through 12.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next we go to Councilman Councilman Carlson, actually for Parks, Recreation, and Cultural.
So, do we pull any of these? So I move items number 13 through 21.
20, I think, we'll discuss.
20, taking out 20 through 19 and 21.
Okay, could you repeat
What
that,
happened
sir?
with 20? We did something on 20?
What happened with, we already moved, in 13 to 17, is that correct?
Not yet, that's what we're doing.
That's what I'm wondering.
He skipped that.
I'm sorry, Councilman Carlton, I have you doing Parks and Rec since Councilman Goods is out, Councilman Dingfelder's out, and as you're the alternate, so it's Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
So it's
So
13 through 17.
so 13 through 21 minus 20.
Actually, can you take it separately by the committee?
So just move 13 through 17, and then
Okay.
we'll go to.
I move 13 through 17.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and now, sir, if you could take the Public Works.
If you can, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I see there too for a second.
Mr. Carlson, if you can, just have a motion to continue item number 19 separately and move the 18 through 21, please.
To continue item 19
Second.
A date and time? Oh, date.
to October 3rd, 2019.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Councilman Escaco, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And now,
Okay, and Councilman
So I
Carlson,
move
sir.
number 18, 20, and 21.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move item 22 through 26.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Carlson, and then we'll separate item 28 for you.
So items number 27 and 29 through 44.
We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by whom?
Second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, with a substitute?
With a substitute on 41.
And I
Thank you.
believe 40 was also previously moved, is that correct, Madam Clerk? No, it was
No.
not? Okay.
We have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Who would like to move item 28?
I'll take, move item number 28.
Second.
We have a second, we have a motion by Councilman Escaco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Councilman Maniscalco, Transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I move items number 45 through 55.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
And then for items 56 and 57, I'd like to set the first one, the public hearing for October 3rd, 2019 at 10:30 a.m.
Second.
And then October 17th, 2019, 9:30 a.m.
We have a motion by
Second.
Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And then item number 57, I'd like to set that hearing for review for November 21st, 2019 at 10:30 a.m.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Escaco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we move onward to our public hearings and quasi-judicials. If anybody is here to testify or speak today on any quasi-judicial matter, I would ask that if you're able to do so, you please stand, raise your right hand, and prepare to be sworn in.
He's gonna run.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
Where's it going?
Okay?
That's what you said, man.
Oh, yes, yes.
Chairman, move to open 58 through 61.
Okay, we have
Fine.
a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second by whom? Second. Second by Councilman Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And
Okay.
since it's past 10:30, Mr. Chairman, I also now take the privilege of opening 62 through 68.
Thank you. Do we have a second? We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead.
Good morning, Council. LaShawn Dog, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Item number 58 is REZ 1947. This would have been before you this morning for second reading. I need to request a continuance to October date. There are additional changes required to be made to the site plan. The applicant did not submit them within the required time frame, so we're requesting a continuance to the October 3rd public hearing, if possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone here from the public here to comment on the continuance only on item number 58? Okay, being none, may we?
You with 58?
Motion with date and time, please.
May I have a motion? If
Mr. Chairman, move to continue item number 58 to October 3rd, 2019 at a time at 9:30 a.m.
we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead.
Thank you, Council. And Council, item number 59 is AB 2 1917. This item is before you this morning for second reading and adoption. Revisions were required to be made to the site plan between first and second reading. Those revisions have been made. Those plans have been provided to the clerk, and I am available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anyone here for item 59?
59.
59?
That was a good year.
Yes, it was.
Jefferson High School.
No one is here for item number 59. Oh.
I was trying to get you to come. That's why I kept saying 59. Jefferson High
The
School.
great professional.
Mr. Chairman, Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa 33602. I'm here to answer any questions. I represent the applicant, the CRG restaurant.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone here from the public here to comment on item number 59?
Move to close. Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Miranda, do you, sir, mind taking item number 59?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 59, file number AB 2 19-17. An ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance approving a special use permit SU for alcohol beverage sales, restaurant consumption on premise only, and making lawful to sell beverages regardless of alcohol content, beer, wine, and liquor on certain lot, plot, or tract of land located at 17004 Palm Point Drive, Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 3 from planning, providing that all ordinance or parts of ordinance in conflict, repealing or repeating ordinance number 200967, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
This is roll
opposed?
call. Second reading.
Vote recorded.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Motion carried unanimously with Dean Fielder being absent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move onward to item number 60. Anyone here from staff on item 60?
Julie Hardy, Legal Department, will request council approve the street renaming.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone, any questions from council? Okay, anyone here from the public here to discuss item number 60? If so, please come forward.
Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Citro, can you please, sir, take this very nice item number 60?
With pleasure,
I'm sure.
Mr. Chair. Ordinance and file number D2019-3, an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption. An ordinance by the City of Tampa renaming and redesigning a portion of USF Maple Drive, which is located within the University of South Florida campus, USF, go Bulls, lying north of USF Alumni Drive, south of East Fletcher Avenue, east of Bruce B. Downs Boulevard, and west of 50th Street, within the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, so that it will hereafter be known as USF Ginshaft Drive, providing an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second reading.
I'm sorry. Gee whiz. I'm off today. Excuse me. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Motion carried unanimously with Dean Felder being absent.
If you want to say something, Councilman.
Thank you. Congratulations to Ms. Judy Ginshaft. This is going to be great for her, and I thank you for everything you've done for the University of South Florida. Thank you, Judy.
Councilman Carlson.
I was at maybe you all were too, I was at the big gala where they gave this to her, and this is a lady who really built up USF and did a lot of great things for our community, led in lots of ways. But you all may know she gave a huge amount of money back to USF to fund the honors school, and it was way more than she earned in her salary the whole time she was there. She and her family gave that, and so they were trying to figure out what could we give somebody who kind of has everything, and so they gave this to her, and it's a small honor for someone who did a lot of great things for our community. So thank you, Dr. Ginshaft.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. And I agree 110%. You know, this is a woman that's really led an academic and revolution over at the University of South Florida, where I graduated from in 2000, so 19 years ago. And she's a tremendous woman and tremendous leader. And this is a wonderful step to commemorate her leadership. So I agree 110%. Okay, next we move onward to item 61.
Council, LaShawn Dodd, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Council, item 61 is REZ 1952. This item is before you this morning for second reading. I am available if you have any questions.
Any questions from the council? Thank you very much, ma'am. Anyone here for item 61? Applicant?
Slow crowd today.
Yeah. Well, no one here for 61. Let's first do, anybody here for public comment on item 61? I don't think a crowd's going to rush out.
Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Maniscalco, can you, sir, read item 61?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1502, 1508, and East 17th Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50, residential single family, to CG commercial general, providing an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco and a second by Councilman Miranda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously with Dean Felder being absent.
Okay, we move onward to item number 62.
Melanie Calloway, Transportation Planning. I'm here on the First Street removal case. There's just two little areas on Tyler that they would like to remove. So this is at the intersection of Tyler and Tampa. And you see these little areas? They are going to install these pedestrian bulb outs. These are for pedestrian refuge and also makes the intersections closer together. So the person that's here at the head ramp, they will have less distance in which to cross the road. Actually, transportation has future projects to actually do a lot of those downtown. And as you know, FDOT actually did some along Jackson and Kennedy not too long ago. We did all the ramps. This one also has a second little piece here on Harrison Street. Harrison is a brick street, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's not completely, it doesn't go all the way through to Franklin. It's just, there are bricks there. And we do have a plan to eventually connect Tampa to Franklin, but it's not this is not what it's asking. It's just this little area they're going to remove to put in a driveway. The petitioner's here if you have questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for staff? Let's see, my friend. Go ahead.
Almost good afternoon. Marilyn Healy from Ackerman, representing the developer. So today, we had this request. Let's see if I can get this on there. You know I'm never good at this. So we're talking about the piece, actually, point of order, Mr. Chairman. Can I talk about both of them at once, even though it'll be separate votes?
Sure.
We are putting it's at 102 Tyler, and then the Domino's Pizza place, we are going to do temporary parking in that area due to the construction for the tower that's going on the other part. And as a brief overview about what's happening there, this summer the city approved a 23-story unit, 188-unit multifamily student housing tower. There's a big deficit in student housing in the downtown area, and they are preparing to put this tower up and solve that deficit, hopefully. So the DDR approval and the related city requirements are derivative from that city center envision master plan that you were talking about earlier, where you have walkability, live, work, and play, pedestrian safety improvements, and other things that help transition times and provide a lot of safety aspects, which you're doing not only here, but all the way down that corridor with the related developments that are coming on past then. So in this case, certain portions of Tyler Street and Harrison Streets are going to be impacted, and we did an exhibit, put it in here, right? Always consistent. Okay, and you can see we are taking out, from the Domino's parcel, we are removing 133 square feet of the brick and another 15 over in the other area, which is right here, for a total of 148 square feet, which is a net removal of 8.95% of the vitrified brick. And then on the other side, we are realigning part of Harrison so that that will go straighter and fit into that grid when it finally connects to Franklin Street. And we are removing approximately 1,564 square feet of the brick, and we are replacing an additional 256 square feet, which would result in a 4.06 addition to the brick. So obviously these enhancements are what's required by the city code and the DDR and the master plan and everything as the city moves forward with its development. We are requesting your approval today on this. I have our engineer, Scott Gilner from Kimberly Horn, to answer any specific questions you may have. But at the end of the day, and I am going to put this on there, right? This is what it's going to look like when it gets replaced. So you'll see the blue area here is where that replacement is coming in on the Tyler Street side. There'll be 2 parking spaces there, and then they're also replacing some on Harrison. So with that, I will be quiet and ask for your approval. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilman Maniscalco.
So you would be removing one of the street spaces that's in front of the Kutro's Music building right there, next to the parking space, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's all, that's just one space coming out?
One space, and I think if, there we go again, if we can get it right this time. This is that existing building.
If I may inquire.
And,
Chairman, Ms. Healy, I'm sorry, but staff made only presentation on one. I understand you're bringing the big picture, but I'm just confused as to whether this applies to this hearing, number 62, or number 63.
Well, you said we could address them together, so I would say that it's basically the Domino's piece, which is the 03, and that would be 60.
And Mr. Shelby brings up a good point, which is by allowing you to do both, we didn't have staff do the presentation on.
And council only called up number 62.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And there may be different issues with regard to approval of one versus the other
Yeah.
relative to the public.
Let's
I don't know what
start,
the
let's
answer is.
then tailor our remarks, please, to 62. That's my omission in that regard. I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Shelby.
Oh, no problem.
That is 60.
Okay, that is a Domino's. So everything I said still applies, and this is related to the Domino's piece where we're going to put the temporary parking in there for the Marriott Hotel as our construction is going up. So these 2 spaces and this one will go where the little white car is. Due to the bulb out for the ADA.
Is it necessary to have to remove those spaces in order to, because it's a parking lot. You have plenty of other spaces, but why those that are on the
We
street?
didn't request that. That was a requirement of the DDR, so that's
Okay.
probably more appropriate for staff.
Okay.
Want to ask that?
Sure.
Melanie Calloway, Transportation Planning. The bulb out is not a requirement for the DDR. So let me explain. If you see this box right here, it's where the current Domino's is located and all their parking is here, dropped curb, it's a little messy. So this building is gonna be removed, and when they did that and they made the driveway, they made this driveway now to standard. When they did that, they had to move it over. They had to, here we go. They had to make, when they were making the driveway, if you see this area, you're gonna take this line, if you see this area right here, this is kind of like, right now, it's kind of like an open area. It's right here. And there's no striping or anything, it's kind of like a wide space. So to make it safer for pedestrians, to bulb it out with raised curbing and sidewalk, this helps to make this a shorter distance for pedestrians to cross. And again, I told you, the city is already gonna be doing this work in a few years. A lot of bulb outs here in downtown to make it closer so the pedestrian who's crossing the street has less amount of time to be in an open area and risk of being hurt. So when they moved this over, they took out this space. But as you can see, there was 2 spaces here and kind of like an open space, and then 2 spaces here. We're coming in, the city has a project to redo Herman Massey Park. And when they do that, we have opportunity to have this space and this actually converted to a space, and there actually might be extra room. We may restripe this whole area to have actually 4 spaces. We can actually fit 4 there. So really, we're not losing a space. We just need to reconfigure it when it comes to the time of Herman Massey Park, which that plan's in right now. So they're just gonna have to restripe this, and they could make the 4 spaces back.
So where the crosswalk is at closest to, well, where the existing crosswalk is at, why have the design where you have to remove that 1 space anyway? I mean, the crosswalk is here, you can design it where it's
Right.
closest to, what is it, Ashley
Right.
Drive at that point, or?
Correct, so.
Or
if you
Tampa,
look,
I'm sorry,
this is
Tampa
how it
Street,
currently
Tampa Street.
looks. Right, this driveway does not have flares, it's a very old driveway, just drop curb and it doesn't meet standard. What they had to do is they had to shift it a bit to the east, and when they did that, they made this area more palatable, so now pedestrians can safely be in this area in a raised curve, and then this one, that's why I had to shift over, is because this, where this building is now, they had to shift and make the driveway actually meet standard. Before it was just kind of drop curb and didn't have flares, it wasn't that functional. They had to make it to meet standard now when they redeveloped that site. So essentially, you're not missing, you're just pushing them over. I had also, there's an opportunity.
And ma'am, if you could you speak a little louder?
Sorry.
Thank you, we
Yeah,
appreciate it.
There's also opportunity to have, we have more extra space than we need there. We have opportunity, we could design them in different ways. We could actually have more availability for loading space maybe there. We can look at loading space, we can look at 15-minute Uber spaces. Transportation is looking at the whole downtown of all these different ways in which to designate spaces to be more palatable to each block and what's there and what can be serviced there.
All right, thanks.
Councilman Carlson.
If you said I didn't understand it, can you explain to me why that brick has to be removed? I don't understand.
So, to make these bulb outs here, which is raised curb and a sidewalk, it's raised curb, it's concrete, we're gonna have to take out these little sections right here to make it raised curb with a concrete, so they're bulbed out, this is a pedestrian area. So you had to take the brick out here because Tyler is a brick street.
So it's just making the sidewalk wider in that area?
Sidewalk, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then the other question, and Councilman Goods, I think, alluded to this too. You know, my district, they're really concerned about bricks being lost. I think years ago, the city sold them to Winter Park. can these bricks be salvaged and put in storage somewhere to be used somewhere else?
Yes, absolutely. The actual resolution that we have requires them to palletize them and to deliver them back to the city because it is our property. And we do store them over on 26th Avenue.
Great, thank you.
Councilman Moran.
Two things, I believe that the brick, that's a law, you gotta do something, give them back to the city.
Yes.
That's way back, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And secondly, what you're doing there is something that you've already done downtown in certain neighborhoods, right here in the corner of this.
Yes, absolutely right. You
Jackson
know, I
and
came
Florida.
here several months ago when Miranda was here, and they were doing all these build outs here. The DOT did them.
Thank God I got a memory from this morning when I saw it.
That's exactly right.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor.
You're welcome.
And petitioner, did you, anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate it. Okay, now we move onward to public comment. If you're here to publicly comment on this item, please come forward. And just so we know, if you could raise your hand, how many folks here to comment on this item? There you go. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, Mr. DeMaio did present me with a speaker waiver form. E. Michael Isaac, are you here? Okay, so you're giving up your time to speak to be able to give the extra minute to Mr. DeMaio, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and if there's any time left.
That doesn't work that way, sir, unfortunately. If you agree to give him the extra minute, you lose your opportunity for 3. What is your choice?
I'll give it to Mr.
Thank you. Gilad Livingstone?
Yes.
You're present, you waive your time?
I do.
Thank you. Jeremy Moore?
Yes.
The same?
Same.
Thank you. And Malka Isaac? Thank you. Do you waive your time as well? Thank you. 4 additional minutes for a total of 7.
Good morning, Council. My name is Victor DeMaio. Does that give me 7 minutes? Is that what it totals out to? 4 times 2 should be, I should get 3 minutes plus, what's the total?
Total of 7.
7.
7 minutes.
Okay. I thought it was 2 for each, but that's fine. Victor DeMaio, 4925 Independence Parkway, Suite 195. I'm here representing the owner of the historic building next to where this bulb out or bud out or whatever you want to call it is taking place, and they're asking the city to remove the bricks. I'm here representing Malka Isaac. Malka's the owner of the building. Her son Michael's here, and we have Gil Livingston. He's the architect on the project. I want to go through this real quickly. This is the historic, well, it was, except one thing we do really good in Tampa is tear down historic buildings and make parking lots, which is what this is about. If you take the Moss Brothers building, which is now a parking lot, and all the other parking lots that we have in the city of Tampa, unfortunately, this is what we do best here in Tampa, which is sad because in other cities like Boston, Memphis, New Orleans, and so forth, they do a lot more effort in preserving historic buildings and making sure that the part of the history and fabric and culture of the city is maintained. Malka owns the building next to where they tore down the old Gulf Station, as you see there. And this is a picture from 1935. And this is actually Malka's building, which is the only building left on Zack Street, which is left that's historic. And actually I spoke to Ron Vila this morning about seeking historic status of that 3-story building that was originally called the Alden Hotel. And as you can see by the first floor, it was also a bakery. And it had an oversized balcony, which we're considering restoring as well. That is, the building, as you see, is still there. It was built in 1911, and this picture is from 1921, and you see the historic Alden Hotel, and downstairs you see the delivery trucks. You also see the stacks where there's still the oven for the bakery in the building that we're looking to keep. I'll show you some other pictures of the building as it is now. Here's a picture for one side. As you see, the construction that's going on is actually intruded into our property probably a third of the way in. We can't even get into the side of our building on the other side because the construction company has locked us out. That's one side. You also see part of from the original from the original 1911 porch on the side, we're considering wrapping it around to continue on with that. Here's another picture. You also see a street cutout now, which is available for loading. If we do construction on this building to remodel and rehab it and restore it to its original, we're going to need a loading zone. And what the main interest that I got involved with this several days ago with Malka is that bulb out, or whatever we're going to call it, bud out, that I call it, which ironically, I drive down Howard Avenue every day going home from Main Street to Columbus Drive. There's about 20 of these bud outs. And all they do is control, all they are weed collectors. The city's very good about having these bud outs, and they collect weeds. And I have to see that every single day. So, and when I spoke to Melody even yesterday, this bud out thing, or bulb out, whatever you want to call it, can be painted. And what we're asking you to do here today, here's a picture from overhead and showing the Gulf Station that's gone away, the building as it is now. We're also, by the way, speaking to a restaurateur, because as you can see from the side of the building, there are plans. Just yesterday, the city had a staff meeting. They do have proposals to redo that entire Massey Park with tables and chairs, although we're not sure about the chairs since the lights chairs have disappeared. But at least for this building, if the restaurant goes there, we are talking a restaurateur would take over the entire bottom floor and maybe do a rooftop deck on the top of this building. Those people can actually get food from inside the restaurant and go and sit in the park and enjoy that amenity that the city will offer to people living down there. Here's another photograph looking down the alley. Now, Malka owns 5 feet into this alley. This was originally an alley. It was vacated some time ago. I haven't got the records on it. But again, you see an old historic door on the side of the building that can be used for entrance and an exit. This is another picture that was taken yesterday by our drone. All this trash we've been cited for, and we can't even get into the back because the construction company from their side has dumped all this trash on our side of the building, and it's prevented us from being able to service it. And as you can see here, they've already removed the brick without your permission, even though you haven't actually granted the permission. The bricks have already been removed from the sidewalk on that side. Now, I know we're talking about two different things, but frankly, there's two entrances to this parking lot.
And I'm
One
sorry,
is
Mr. DeMaio, if you could, yes, sir.
this one here. Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So anyway, we're not objecting. They have two entrances parking. One is coming off of Harrison, and one is coming off of Tyler Street. We have no objection with the rear entrance. They already have an entrance going. And we'd like to ask you to reject the brick situation so that we can, because as you say, Malka's main concern is losing that one parking spot in the front that she's had which was Cujo's Music for many, many years. And we haven't settled the issue of what's going to happen with this parking spot here, or what's going to happen with the loading zone. We have all those options available. So I'm asking you to reject the street brick removal just for the Tyler Street. They can stripe it in the meantime if they want to, till we settle all these issues. We want to have the opportunity to sit down with traffic, with zoning, with our neighbors as well, and see what kind of compromise we can work out for this lost parking spot, which again, there's only two in front of the building, and she's losing the one, and how we're going to be able to load and unload if we do a restaurant, how the delivery people can come in and out, how we can do the construction work, so forth and so on. So that's what we're asking you here today to do. If you would listen to us, or maybe grant a continuance, I don't know. Whatever is your favor. But what we're asking for is to put the brakes on those two bulb outs, so that we can sit down and figure out what the city is going to do with this entire park and this Tyler Street and all the parking involved in our building. And like I say, we're the only historic building left on Tyler. That's all we have left, and we'd like to make it into a nice building that the city and the people will be proud of. And we're here if you have any questions to ask us. We're here and available.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to ask Ms. Healy a question now? Or?
Sure.
Did I understand correctly, the city asked the developer to do this? Does the developer want the bulb outs or not?
That's part of the city's form-based code requirements, and we had a transportation design
exception required by the city as well.
So does the develop, and stop me if this gets you in legal trouble, but does the developer care if we, it sounds like this is between the adjacent property owner and the city, not the developer, is that right? Or-
That's kind of, as I'm listening to what they're saying, I believe the answer is yes to that. I think the one issue, at least as related to our bulb out, has to do with that loss of the one parking space. The other stuff with the alley and their historic building designation, and that's all outside of our development as well as this application.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask Mr. DeMaio one question? So the staff person earlier had suggested repainting to add another.
As you heard Melanie, one key thing she said was the bulb out. See, if you want to paint them on, you can always repaint and move things around. If you put those cement bulb outs in, then you got to get a jackhammer to move them later on. Once they're in, they're permanent, just like the ones down Howard.
But is the main issue that that your client wants the extra parking space?
Or a loading zone. These are issues that are up in the air right now, and we're all in this together. The city's got the park, they've got their parking lot, and we have our building. And we haven't sat down. I'd love to sit down face to face with everybody involved to work everything out. That's what we're asking. And we can't do that if you give them permission today to remove the bricks and do the bulb outs. So the bulb outs can either be made out of cement or they can be painted on. If you want to do it, like Melanie told me, the bulb out is nice, made out of cement, but they could paint them on temporarily until we resolve all these issues. So, in fact, like I say, they already have an entrance on Harrison behind. They already have an entrance back and forth to get in and out of that parking lot off of Harrison. They don't even need an entrance off of Tyler. And frankly, if they want to do an entrance and exit only, they can move the 20-foot entrance into a 10-foot entrance. So there's options out there that we can explore.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Citro, then Councilman Miranda.
Legal wants to stand up and say something, and then I want to ask staff.
I just want to quickly remind the council, the issue before you today is simply whether they're allowed to remove the bricks. Section 22.305 of the code limits the review. It's really a concern about whether it's in the interest of public health, safety, or welfare to remove them, and whether there are alternatives to removing it. Some of these issues are clearly outside the scope of what's being discussed now.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Councilman Citro.
So I hope my questions are within the scope. I wish to ask staff, Ms. Healy, if you don't mind, you made a statement saying that this is on city. Can I have staff rebuttal?
Providing the bulb outs is not a requirement. They are choosing to do that, though it's not something.
And I'm sorry, ma'am, could you state your name?
Oh, sorry, Melanie Calloway, Transportation. It's not that we were going to do that anyway. We were actually going to stripe it because that's easier to do and quicker to do, but we were eventually going to put in bulb outs. We were going to do that because it is safer. They are just going to do it before we were going to do it. So in time, a couple years from now, we're going to do it anyway. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you. Melanie, in fact, I'd asked the chairman to bring you up. It is my understanding that the Transportation Department has taken that view in doing downtown step by step chronologically.
Yes.
And I imagine that's to slow down the traffic and for public safety.
Yes.
Because they had all ramps going in and out and it looked like a driveway.
Yes.
Compare that to West Tampa, that was done about 15 years ago or so by Mr. Taranchik, the one that brought it up to the council. I didn't care for them that much, and it looked like hell because of the size of a batter's box. And they don't do anything. And they're not kept, and he's right, they left nothing but weeds there. They had plants. The problem is that under the plants, there wasn't enough water to sustain the growth of that plant. So you put them in, 2 weeks later, they were dead. But that's how it was. So I understand what he's saying, but the comparison is altogether different. This is a synchronized plan that the city has had for some time to slow down the traffic.
Correct. It's to slow it down and to help pedestrians have a shorter distance across the roadway.
In fact, when you come out of this lot, this council lot, going out Florida Avenue, heading north,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for that, they'd be coming in that turning lane and you'd have collisions. That's what they done it for.
That's correct.
Or did it for, excuse me, for speaking in Spanish and English at the same time.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Booth.
I'm just looking at that frame that Mr. DeMaio put up in regards to the bricks, and it seems like the bricks have already been stacked up. Ms. Calloway? To me, it seems like it's already been predetermined on the way we're gonna go versus asking permission us to grant or deny. So I'm just wondering, how did that happen?
How did what happen? I'm sorry.
The frame that Mr. DeVito put up, where the bricks have already been removed from the street. Stacked up, ready to be removed, hauled off, or stored. I'm just curious.
Well, maybe the petitioner can answer that question, but I can tell you the city can't answer the question is, we had told the petitioner not to touch them.
Oh.
This requires a 30-day notice. This hearing requires a 30-day notice, or I could have just put it on the schedule a few weeks ago, but the 30-day notice, because the neighbors had to be noticed, that's why the next door neighbor knew. We told them not to do it. They needed to submit a right-of-way permit to remove them. We said we do allow people to remove, they had to do some utility work underneath and put back. So they're just going to put it back exactly the way that it was. We do allow people to do that, but they needed to get a right-of-way permit to do that. Maybe they can explain to you what happened, as I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from them.
Ms. Healy? And after this, we'll go back to public comment, because we can't forget, we're in public comment right now.
Okay,
Go
on
ahead.
the brick removal, our contractor, Moss Construction, removed that, cleaned them up, put them on the pallets for the stormwater utility connection, and some of those are gonna go back. However, we stopped everything when they realized they had to come back in and amend their right-of-way permit. So it's just sitting there and will stay there until we get your approval to move forward to take anything out. We were talking, well, you were talking before, and we could basically paint that area.
And let's save things outside of the bricks issues for rebuttal, if we may, ma'am, and we'll
Okay.
come back just to finish up public comment. But
All
we
right.
appreciate your answering that question this evening. Okay, next for public comment, who's next? If anyone. Well, I'll be darned. Okay, well, come on back.
We would be fine as long as the city is fine, and will make that commitment to us today, that they're okay with us just painting that area. We were making those improvements in line with the master plan and everything that the city wants to do there, but we're okay with that, obviously.
Questions from council?
But isn't it, at the end of the day, excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, at the end of the day, the city's already put in testimony that they're gonna do that anyway. So, I mean, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have a party that's been canceled, that's gonna be a party anyway? I'm not trying to say one side or the other, but the city in their testimony said they were gonna do it, and they've done it. And in different parts of the city already.
Yes, sir.
Mr. DeMaio, it sounds like if the city's going to do it anyway, the difference is maybe the city will have to directly pay later on, but they're probably going to try to do it. So maybe this just delays it for you all until you get your project done.
Correct. I mean, it's easier if they paint it and we decide to either eliminate that entrance, make the entrance smaller. There's a lot of things in the air. The only thing you're questioned and asked to do today is deny the street brick removal. And if you deny the street brick removal, they won't be able to build a cement butt out. Now, 3 years from now, they want to do it into cement. By then, we would have settled all of our issues. We would have gone to the table, we worked out whatever the problems are, figured out where our parking is going to be. But right now, we're just up against it, and the only thing you have to decide, again, there's brick in the back, there's an entrance in and out of there from the rear in Harrison, and there's an entrance in and out of there from Tyler. We're just talking about Tyler, and we're asking just to not give them permission to do the street brick removal. The city will just do a paint thing until a few years down the road. They'll do the butt out of the cement, and by then the building will be fixed. That's what I'm asking today. I think that would be the solution for all of us, and then we can still talk to the city and figure out how we're going to fix that whole section of
Because
Title.
it sounds like we'll be back before. Ms. Healy, could I ask you one more question, and maybe it's redundant again, but just to be clear, the vote, if we vote against this, we're not voting against the developer, we're just voting against the criteria that the city gave the developer.
Well, if you vote against this and turn this down and we don't have a solution, you basically are stalling and stopping our project.
Okay.
We have to deliver our student housing product within a year for the next student season.
So what do we, Ms. Zellman, what do we do? We're not allowed to discuss other solutions in this meeting?
I just want to be clear, I'm correct in understanding what you're requesting. Are you requesting approving the brick removal in every part of the project with the exception of that one bulb out on the?
I don't know what everybody else
east and
sounds,
west
what it thinks, but it sounds like the developer maybe doesn't care, except that this will delay their project because the city has asked for it. The adjacent building wants at least a delay so they can figure out what's going on with their project. But is there? It sounds like the solution that was on the table is to paint it, at least temporarily, instead of building this butt out, which it sounds like the developer's okay with it, except that if we reject this now without the other solution approved by the city, then it delays their project. So how can we solve this legally?
Am I correct in understanding that all that Mr. DeMaio is objecting to is one particular bulb out? So it seems to me that the question is, could the approval be revised to be approving all the other brick removal with the exception of that bulb out? Is that correct?
Right, and that the city would be then
Okay.
Or you could delay this
Can we
30
do that
days.
here? Can we modify here or not?
Can that resolution?
Can we modify it here without having to bring it back?
You can do it.
And everybody, wait to be recognized, please. Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
That's a question.
I'm just trying to find a solution
Can
that
we-
doesn't delay everybody.
What I'm trying to make clear is how the resolution reads in terms of, does it identify the exact geographical areas?
And are there exhibits attached to that as well? Ms. Hardy, are there exhibits attached to that as well that would have to be
So
revised?
would you revise the exhibit? Is that?
Is this something that would
I
take?
think the exhibit could be revised, the actual resolution you'd be approving could be revised today, so you could actually.
Would we need a
approve it today.
5-minute recess over this, or I would think?
We can go to we skip 63, we can go to 60, we got others we can do.
Well, 63 is related too, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we skip 63.
And let them come back with a
Okay.
revised plan.
How about 64?
I didn't hear what you decided to do, I'm sorry.
We'll go.
We talked about delaying this so you all can work out some kind of revision.
Yeah,
and
folks
then-
have to revise the exhibit.
And then we
that's
would
my
go on to the next
understanding.
item.
Yeah, there's 64, which is going to be continued. Yeah, so we'll do that. We'll, whenever y'all are ready, just let us know.
Should we ask if there's any objection in the room for 64? Are we allowed to do that without opening it?
Well-
Because if there's another objection that they should negotiate, I wonder if we should be aware of.
Are you talking 63 or 60?
63, whatever the next one is.
Oh, okay, I see. Problem is, they probably want to be here for 63, and they're going to be
The same ones.
revising. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. So we'll just go forward to 64. Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
I'm just thinking maybe they can take that outside.
Yeah, and if y'all don't mind, if y'all don't mind taking it outside, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much. Okay, item 64, apparently there is a continuance being requested. Is anyone here for 64?
Barbara Lynch, Land Development Coordination. City has no objection to the continuance. I don't think the applicant is here, but we are working on a solution to go forward with the vacating in a month.
Thank you, ma'am. Is anyone here from the public here to comment solely on the continuance for item 64? May I have a
Chairman, I
motion?
move to continue 64 to October 17, 2019 at 10:30 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we move onward to item 64.
65?
65.
I'm sorry, 65, excuse me.
See, I'm glad I'm not the only one.
I got it from here today.
Go ahead.
Barbara Lynch, Land Development Coordination. This request is for a portion of an alley in the North Hyde Park area, and I have a map for the overhead. The applicant is requesting to vacate a portion, the east-west portion of an alley. This alley's a T, so there's a south portion here as well. And it lies south of Lemon, north of Cass, and runs between Howard and Albany. The applicant's property is in red and the alley is in yellow. The east-west portion is not included because it's paved and it's functioning for use with a restaurant that's soon to be opened there. Find my pictures and I'll get right to it. I apologize.
Take your
Misplaced my
time.
pictures. Well, first I'll show you the plat. So this alley was created by a plat, and this is the portion that they're requesting to vacate. And it still looks that way today. This is our map, so the alley's outlined in red. And the alley is partially paved at Albany. So this is the alley looking west from Albany, and that's the east-west portion, so it's the paved part. This is the east-west portion looking east from the north-south alley. So this is not improved, and it looked like it was a staging area for the construction of the restaurant.
And ma'am, Councilman Citro has a question.
I just have this question to ask. You see that public notice sign that's taken down and put off to the side?
Yes.
How long has that been like that, do you know?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Was that up there long enough time for proper notice?
Well, the way it states, they have to notice within 30 days, so we don't monitor if the sign stays up. As long as they take a picture and they testify that they put the notice up, then there's no monitoring of that sign during that time.
Council?
And that was probably removed by the people that were doing the work on the restaurant.
Thank you very much for that observation, but it is public notice, and if it's been put down, taken down, I just have a concern about that, Council.
What Ms. Lynch did say is correct. At the time of the filing of the affidavit, that has to be in the clerk's file. I'm asking the clerk if they were able to have the file. But my understanding is normally the clerk does verify this before it is put forward to be placed on the agenda, but I will verify that, sir. Once the photograph is taken, the affidavit is filed, there is no continuing obligation to ensure the sign is always in location.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then,
but I'm sorry to interrupt you 1 second. Mr. Shelby, I see people with signs out there, and I want to, what's council's rules with signs? That's what I thought, because we've never had signs.
There's no signs allowed, if I recall. You can have a T-shirt.
You may not have signs. Okay, so I would have to ask the good folks out there with signs, I appreciate y'all's vigor and passion, but unfortunately, council rules preclude signs. We haven't had any since I've been here.
And obviously, if there are people who feel the opportunity to convey, the opportunity to do that is during public comment.
Yes.
At a public hearing.
We welcome your expression and your views, but during public
You may wear a garment, that's part, you can't say what's on the ground. You buy garments anywhere. That's why they let you wear the T-shirt or whatever.
But signs specifically are distracting to council, and it's prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for y'all's cooperation. We look forward to hearing from everybody. Go ahead, ma'am.
okay. This is a picture of the north-south alley that was improved, and there's a restaurant on the corner at Howard and Cass that's going to be opening soon, so that's why that's been either repaved or paved, I'm not sure, and that's another picture of it. This is the picture of the applicant's property looking south from Lemon Street. There are 2 letters of support in the report that you should have seen that are for the properties at the corner of Cass and Albany, and this is 2101 West Cass, and they are the property owner who has the entrance off of Albany to their parking lot in the rear. And this is a picture of the rear of it. And this is the parking lot to the side that's on the west side of that property. And then this is just a picture of the restaurant that's soon to be open. This is a graphic that shows some of the vacating activity in this area. This is about a mile square, so everything in red is what's been vacated, and the applicant's property is right here. So there has been a lot of vacating in this area. Staff objects to this request based on the objection from transportation. There are facilities in the alley. If this is approved, we will need easements for wastewater and Frontier overall.
Mr. Chairman,
Shelby.
if I may, to address Mr. Councilman Citro's concern, the clerk did have an opportunity to review the file. The sign was in place, and the notice requirements have been complied with.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Melanie Calloway, Transportation Planner. I just wanted to explain our objection. It's not a complete objection, I'll explain. My concern with them, so the alley is at this location. How this driveway, how this parking works is they're required, this is how it should be working, but I saw the picture, so I think I know how they're doing it. They should be coming in from this alley and going into these spaces and exiting on the path. If they vacate the alley, they only get 5 feet. They won't have additional room to actually go down this alley anymore. It will require them to get a permit to redo this parking lot. What unfortunately could occur is this space, which used to maneuver into the alley, can no longer do that. This one will have to be removed. If they get a driveway off of Albany, Section 27 and 283.12J states non-residential parking lots have to access arterial and collector streets. That would be cast. That could also trip them into other issues of they may need a waiver to that. They would have to remove asphalt in the right-of-way, as this was paved without permit. They would have to put in a new driveway here to make this functional. I just wanted the petitioner aware that when he does this, which he might already know these things, I just wanted on record that this could open a lot of issues for him if he now has to go and permit this parking lot because he's removed his access. I'm not sure if you really understood. So it's not really an objection. I just want it on the record. This can open a ball of problems for his property later.
I just want to correct something. That owner is not the applicant. Okay?
Okay.
He's in support of it. I just don't know if he's here or not.
Let me say this, Ms. Both of you. Is the petitioner this same location at 2104?
On Lemon Street.
He's the owner of that building? He's the one?
No, the commercial building at 2101 West Cass is not the applicant, but did write a letter in support of the vacating. I'm not sure if they understand the implications of vacating the alley in terms
but
of.
it's not up to me.
Right, no, I know.
He wrote the letter.
Right, he wrote the letter in support, but the applicant owns the property at 2104 West Lemon.
I just wanted it out there.
Councilman Goods, did you have a question, sir?
Well, Mr. Miranda kind of alluded around it, and Ms. Calloway did too. It could open up a whole bunch of worms right now. Did the petitioner know and so forth, but the petitioner is not the applicant. So it may be a cause, and maybe the petition may need to get with the owner so they can understand the realms and ramifications of what this may cause. So I'll just yield back until the applicant comes up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, is the applicant here? Thank you, sir. Please state your name.
Hi, good morning, council. My name is Thomas Blevins, the applicant. I live and reside at 2104 West Lemon Street. I've been at this location over 22 years, and we do have representatives from NECA, which is the union building, which is behind my property, and they will state how the functioning of the parking lot works. It works fine currently with an entrance on Cass entering into that parking lot, and nobody has complained about the way that it is currently being used. We do ask that you guys help us vacate this alley. It is already vacated. We just need your permission and approval to put it on the record because it is not being used as the reason it's vacated. You can see different pictures here. This is what I face all the time. University of Tampa is close to this area, When the students actually go back home, they have no place to put their mattress, so a lot of times they dump it into the alley, and you can see that time after time, we have tons of different debris that people actually bring to the area. We used to have a lot of people who were squatting in the area, and this is the stuff that I was faced with cleaning up this alley all the time. People going to the bathroom, having to clean that up, dumping their bags in the alley. This is a picture of us cleaning up the alley. And it's hard to access the alley from the front of the street. But over the years, these are different pictures of all the different debris that has been left in the alley. And then, let's see. This is a picture of the NECA building, and transportation did state that they have to use the alley. There's probably about 30 feet of partially paved asphalt in the alley, and transportation states that they have to go in this way, but the office manager from this building is here as well, and she'll let everybody know how the people who use this parking lot actually enter from Cass without having any problems. And if they did use the alley, they would have to cross over this, in the back of this building, over this grassy area, which there's a big dip, and it goes from the back of the building to the side of the building. So that's what the people that with that parking lot, if they used it from the alley, would face at this time. We do like to mention that it is consistent with some of the other alleys in the neighborhood that have already been vacated. I want to ensure that we don't put any concrete on this area, because this area in West Tampa is already starting to catch a lot more water than we used to have. So, I mean, I'm seeing like 3 to 4 inches of water standing for hours, whereas 22 years ago when I moved into the neighborhood, we never had that issue or problem. There's a lot of development in the area of the Domain Homes, the Somi Bakery, and Somi has done a really good job with making the neighborhood look good. However, that alley in the northwest or north-south portion of the alley, that has been paved over with pavement, and that's going to be used to enter from Cass, and they're exiting on Lemon Street for the bakery. So I just want to mention that the concrete is one of my biggest concerns, is not having anybody to pave over this and then have standing water in the neighborhood. So there's a lot of people, there's over 15 people here that are in support of this vacating of the alley, and we would appreciate your support as well. Thank you, Council.
We appreciate your remarks. Councilman Citro had a question.
Just a real quick question. Can you put that picture up again of the parking lot and the entrances and exits to the building?
Yes, sir.
Push that up just a little bit, if you don't mind. You're saying that people enter off of Cass Street to park in the parking lot?
That is correct.
On the north side of the building. Isn't that going against the grain?
And we have people who actually utilize that parking lot, and they are here today that can
Was the
testify
parking
to
lot
that.
designed to be entered off of Cass?
I don't know how this parking lot was originally designed, if it was grandfathered in, or
Was
if
it
it was.
permitted to be entered off of Cass Street? I'm asking the petitioner.
I would not be privy to that information because I'm the resident behind this building.
Okay, thank you. Now staff, can you?
Melanie Callaway, Transportation Planning. So, you're correct. It's going up the down. That's what I call it, technically. So, I see through other pictures that they go up here and park in, and then they back out. That's not how it's designed. It's not how it's supposed to be. Now, just to let you know, there's a bit of a loophole when we do, people call in, say, do you need a permit to repave, essentially restripe my parking lot? Answer is usually no. However, what can occur is striping like this not used correctly because they were just restriping, but may have restriped it in a different way or using it in a different way. It was really not intended. Again, if they are going to now have to use a driveway off of Albany, which they don't have a driveway now, and install one, it can start triggering all these things to have to now come into compliance. And this area would have to be paved. As you see, there's a lot of pavement on this property, which they would then may also trigger stormwater requirements. I just wanted them to realize that this can trigger a lot of things if they submitted for a permit to write their parking lot that cannot be using the alley as it was intended. So that was.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Mr. Shelby?
Mr. Chairman, I've had an opportunity to look at the file, and perhaps it's appropriate for testimony from staff relative to, I guess there's a letter, a file from Robert Coopersmith. Is Robert Coopersmith present today? Mr. Chairman, I don't see him, but I believe that's the owner of the property.
Somebody's getting up there.
Is there somebody who represents Mr. Coopersmith?
Yes, sir, I'm here to represent Mr. Coppersmith.
Coppersmith.
Yes,
Please
I'm
state your
sorry that
name.
he
Please
couldn't
state your
join us
name.
today, unfortunately.
Please state your name.
My name is Stacy Weatherington. I'm here as a representative of the Florida West Coast chapter of the National Electrical Contractors Association, which is the,
Yes, you've been sworn. I believe.
That's my question.
Have you been sworn?
I swore with the rest of
That's
the
fine.
crowd earlier, sir.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
So yes, I am here as a representative of our chapter.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, if I may inquire, did you hear the comments relative to the concern from transportation relative to this property?
I did.
And did you want to address anything with regard to that with
I
City Council?
can tell you that when this subject came up several months ago, I brought it to our board of directors. We are a nonprofit organization, so we don't technically have an owner. Our corporation is the owner of the property. Our board voted on this subject back then, 2 months ago. They voted for the vacation, so that's what I'm here to represent. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Next, we'll move to public comment on item number 65. If anyone is here to publicly comment on item 65, so that we get a good idea of how many folks we have. If everyone who is planning on speaking, could you please raise your hand? Okay, please line up against the wall here and let's proceed. And let the first one come forward.
Let's go.
You said it better.
Valente.
Yeah, you're right.
Good morning. My name is Bob Zamani. I swore already. I'm the neighbor on this vacating alley. And surprisingly, I just want to bring to the councilman attention, since we filed for this vacancy of the alley, all of a sudden, the alley got cleaned out, the parking lot got striped. The neighbor who's objecting to this, the commercial property on Cass has 3 big entrances in and out. But newly, they got to stripe the parking and made it look like they can come from that alley and go to the parking, which is funny, but we never saw anybody cleaning that alley. As my neighbor put up, a lot of trash goes there. The restaurant being at the end of alley facing Howard, I don't think they're gonna use the alley, except in the future gonna be their employee parking probably, or their delivery, which is gonna be a lot of traffic back there. Now, at night, there is no light in there, and there's few electrical poles, which hardly a compact car can pass through that alley. So we asked for it to be vacated for the fact of security, very important, which is very dark at night and is a dump station. Now for the fact, since we applied for this vacancy, all of a sudden the alley got cleaned and nice, and a little bit white rocks was put in the front and made it look, it's a functional alley. So that's what I was going to bring to your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next person, please.
I'm for vacating the alley, and my main concern. My name is Vicki Tom, and I'm one of the owners of the building on Cass Street. And one of my main concerns, as I feel our neighbors, is the safety in the rear of our properties. The alleys are a thoroughfare for transients, as everyone has mentioned, and pictures have been shown of defecation, clothing, food, rats come. And I have looked out my window and have seen transients just walking by. Most of our homes are first story. And I also understand that homes have been broken into. And we have children. We have children that play in our backyards or on the swings. And again, alleyways just invite transients. And that beautiful Pasomi restaurant, it's absolutely gorgeous. We're thrilled that it's there. Well, they're going to have food waste in their dumpsters. That is a huge invitation for a food source for transients and for them just deciding to live in that area. I've been listening to the hearings, and you are all very concerned about the safety of our neighborhoods, as you should be. We're taxpayers. We want a safe, beautiful community. So we hope that you keep safety utmost in mind in agreeing to vacate, please. And not just our alley, all the alleys, because again, they invite transients. And we have children playing in our backyards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, Council. My name is Juan Parra. This is my wife, Vanessa Parra. We have lived on Lemon Street for about 15 years now. We own a couple properties on that street, one on the north side and one on the south side, which is on the side that we are referring to. When we moved into the street, we lived on the north side. That alley was vacated at that time, and it created an opportunity for all the neighbors to take pride on that portion of the land. When we moved over to the south side of the street, obviously we moved in knowing that there was an alleyway, but that alleyway has definitely caused some issues over the years that we've been on that side. Our house was broken into about 3 years ago, and that was the method of entrance to the property. We understand that the city does have lines that run through there, but in all the years that we've been on that street, never has there been an issue where those lines have been maintenanced, or have they needed to get to maintenance them through the alleyway. There's manholes on the outsides of the block. There are no forms of getting into those lines through between Albany and Howard Avenue. So we are in favor of vacating. It would be great for the neighborhood. People would be able to take care of that land. As it is now, it's unusable. As previous speaker said, you can't even get a car through there. There are trees, palm trees, that have grown so close together that using it for vehicles is it's just not possible. So anyway, we just wanted to lend our support and thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, please. And ma'am, before you go up, if I may I get a motion for
30 minutes, Mr. Chairman,
30.
just in case we need.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Sheila Paget, and I've actually lived there for about 30 years, so probably longer than most. My kids were raised in that area. West Tampa, as you know, is growing tremendously. We've had a lot of new homes put there. And I will say, I've had my shed broken into a couple of times. I actually live at 21 West Lemon Street, right next to the petitioner, so I'm right behind the alley. I do say it is a safety issue. My kids are no longer there, but of course we have a lot of newcomers into the neighborhood that do have children. And so I'm definitely in favor of it. Hopefully, I'm one of those residents that had to clean the back of my alley, the back of my house several times, because it is true. I have people that come directly through the side of my house, so it's a safety issue for me. So I'm definitely in support of it, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next, please.
Hello, Council. My name is Willie Terrell. I also live on my neighbors here at 2112, and I also have a property next door, which is 2110. I agree with everything they're saying as far as safety, and I'm here for ask for the approval of vacate myself. So they hit on all the points that's needed, though. That's, that's all I have to say.
We appreciate it, sir. Next, please.
Good morning, Council. Corey Johnson, I'm at 2118. Probably one of the closest ones next to the Somi restaurant. Second, everything that they said for vacating the alley. Also, go Bulls. Heard that earlier. But as well as they're almost done with the project, right? So them having access to the alley, I don't think was ever really a concern. They're smart businessmen, which I don't think they really need that alley. And them trying to make it accessible to it now is probably an afterthought. But just another thing that having traffic in the front of my house, obviously, but also in the back is a safety concern for me and my wife. And just wanted to second everything, and I appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
We appreciate it, sir. Next, please.
Good afternoon. My name is John Morades, and I'm the business owner at 2107 West Cass. We've been occupying that building for about 10 years, and we're next door to the electrical union. Just to address what has been portrayed, I've been looking at that parking lot for 10 years. You can drive in, as any person can, and pull straight in the direction, or like a lot of guys like to do, you can back in. But there's no backing out. Nobody comes from the back. There are trees that prevent you from doing that, and there's a dangerous hazard for any car to bottom out coming across that way. More importantly has been the enormous amount of trash and problems we've had with things that we've had to clean up over the years. There's never been an ability for anyone to even access through that. As a business owner, we represent over 300 businesses in the area. I have 10 employees. I'm a retired police officer. Across the street is another police officer of 25 years. The two of us have we've had three altercations to hold people at bay physically in that area and call the police to back us up because there aren't enough things to protect us. And those are people in those alleys. We've been doing our best to do our own neighborhood watch for our business and friendly community. The reality is it's a transitional neighborhood. We're trying to do what we can as business owners to work with the residents to collaborate. That alley, as we've spent thousands of dollars of our business dollars to keep it clean and aware of what's going on with lights and cameras that you as a council are no longer in a position to support. Let us do our job. Vacate that, please. Give us that support. Let us as business owners and residents make use of that and make it safer for us as a community. That's what's more important than worrying about whether or not somebody is backing their car in or coming out the right way. There's only 3 employees at that union. We appreciate your vote.
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else here for public comment on item number 65? Councilman Could you have something to say, sir?
Ms. Calloway. I'm always for hearing citizens' concerns. That's number one. My concern right now is, let's just say this council does approve this alleyway closure. What kind of hardship will that bring on to the property owner now, since we're looking at how this parking lot is designed? Are we, the city, going to now come in now and get on this property owner to make these changes, to do all this? Now, I just want to be clear, because I know sometimes we move in a different direction sometimes. So I want to make sure if this council happens to side with the citizens and their concerns, and we close this alley, that the property owner doesn't come through some kind of hardship and may not can afford to make changes or whatever. So I just want to hear your stance on that, or legal as well, because that's a concern of mine right now.
Melanie Calloway, Transportation. I try to explain that, he would have to come in eventually. It just happens that in some reason, he may have to come in for a permit to right this issue, because he no longer can use that alley. I mean, there is an option for him, and he can do it after the fact. He doesn't have to do it right now. These lots here, he could always get a cross access with them. They already have easements located there. They already have, there's 3 houses here. They already have easements being reserved over it. They can't build things in it, and So what could happen is they could get an easement agreement with these property owners, and they could say, okay, you can traverse on my 5 feet, and I can traverse on your 5 feet, so if they ever needed access here and they need access here, they could agree to that. That's happened, and that can happen after the fact. I just wanted to put on the record that if he is to go into permitting for any, it could open a lot of issues, but I just wanted it out there. If they're willing to go forward, that's fine. The residents, it's not really affecting them, that all of their properties should be fine. I don't see a problem with theirs, but that's the only thing. I just wanted to put it out there. It's on the record. And if they if they have to permit anything, it's gonna open a ball of problems, but they're fully aware. Fine.
Anyone else? Okay, applicants, any rebuttal further?
I just.
Oh, and I'm
He's
sorry.
not the applicant, the applicant's over there.
Were you here for public comment?
Yeah, he spoke.
Oh, okay.
I
And ma'am, no. The applicant.
The applicant's back there, Mr. Bevins.
Oh,
No, you gotta come up.
Yes.
Anything further?
No rebuttal.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Yes, sir.
Since the representative is up, let me have you come up, if you would.
She's already stated that she represents the company, they're not objecting to it. And she already heard that from, 3 times she heard it from Ms. Collins.
And your name?
That's not Beth.
And your name?
The attorney's telling you that, I know what he's telling you.
Your name again, please? I'm sorry.
My name is Stacy Weatherington, sir.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes.
You know, and again, I give deference to Mr. Miranda. You know, he's been here a while, and I understand. But legal did bring that in my ear, so I want to make sure. That's why I brought that up, because I know how sometimes, you know, things get reversed, and we come back and blame council. So I want to make sure you understand what Ms. Calloway has said in reference to your property.
Yes, sir, we did understand, and I also addressed that with the board.
Thank you. There's no objections to that.
No objections.
Okay, we have motion closed by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I think we're on Councilman Maniscalco, or who's next? Have you read it yet? Yeah, I read it. Okay, then Councilman, if you feel comfortable taking item 65.
Okay, sure.
File number VAC 19-22. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a portion of an alleyway right-of-way lying south of Lemon Street, north of Cass Street, east of Howard Avenue, and west of Albany Avenue, in the city of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida. The same being more fully described in section 1 hereof, subject to certain easement, reservation, permits, conditions, and restrictions more particularly set forth here and providing an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilman Roots, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chair, second reading and adoption will be held on October 17, 2019 at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we revert back to 62. The parties will come forward and present what's to be presented.
Just real quick, what we've done is you have your resolution, and Exhibit A to the resolution has been revised, so I would assume you would want to state into the record that you're approving it with a revised Exhibit A, as will be submitted to the clerk today.
It's going to be submitted now?
Correct.
Has
You have
it been
the
submitted to the
copy
clerk
now.
as yet?
Not yet.
Okay, when we do that, council, you can make a motion to accept the substitute exhibit and then
Okay.
move forward.
May I have a motion to that effect? Or,
What's your,
I'll say.
This is our requested substitute exhibit where,
I don't think,
There you go.
I do, don't I? Yes, all right, good. So this area that we were gonna remove and replace the brick, we are going to stripe now. And that will result in only 84 square feet of brick being removed over here on this side.
Any questions from council? Mr. DeMaio, any position, statement?
We met amicably and we agreed with the owners to do that.
You're always nice.
Maryland's an old friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. I guess we move now. That was,
I believe if I can,
may
Ms.
we move to
Healy is.
close?
Sorry.
No, sir, if you can.
Move to close.
And we have to first accept the substitute.
Accept the substitute, Calling on number 62, file number BSR-19-3.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, may I have a motion to close,
Move to
please?
close.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Citro, second by Councilman Escaco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and excuse me, this is a resolution. Who would like to move it?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
by Councilman Maniscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We move onward to item 63.
Melanie Calloway, Transportation Planning. This is just now on the west side of Tampa. And as you can see, it's already striped out in these areas, except right here. And then it's going to look like this. With the new raised bulb outs, and then we're just bringing it back and putting it in 2 spaces. But they're just gonna remove those little pieces. Brick, skirt, and wheel.
Any questions from council? Okay.
Well, we spoke at the beginning of what we were going to do there, and we'd request your approval for the removal. And we have our engineer here if you have any
Thank
questions.
you. Any questions? Okay, being none, we move forward to public comment. Is anyone here to comment on item 63? If so, come forward.
Move to close.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Who would like to move this
Move
resolution?
the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to move the resolution by
On
Councilman.
file number BSR-19-4.
By Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We next move to item 66.
Barbara Lynch, Land Development Coordination. VAC 1924 is a request to vacate a portion of an alley in the Seminole Heights area, and I have a map for the overhead. This alley is north of Curtis, south of Osborne, and runs between Taliaferro and Nebraska. It's T-shaped, and they are asking for just the southern leg of this alley. It's outlined in yellow, and the property owner is in red. It's a little better example, so you can see it. This is, so they're asking for the alley south of the east-west alley to be vacated, just this south portion. This is the alley looking north from Curtis Street. You can see it doesn't go through. There's some vehicles parked there right now. This is the alley looking, the north-south looking south from Osborne. You can see it's blocked at that end. This is the alley looking east from Taliaferro, and one of the reasons that we advise that they not go for the entire alley is that east-west alley is being used at the west end by the owners of 2 properties on the north side of the alley. So we recommend not to include that part. This is the applicant's property. And on the other side of the alley to be vacated, there's a commercial property, and it's a bakery. This is the parking, and it's called Crosslock Bakery. And then this is also, let's see if I got this right here. This is the property area, that's right, yeah, there's state. And this is about a mile square, showing all the vacatings in red that have occurred, so vacatings aren't uncommon in this part of town as well. Staff has no objection to this vacating request. They do need an easement, I believe, for wastewater. The applicant is here.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant here on 66?
Afternoon. My name's Roland Amore, 812 East Curtis Street.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
No, I'm sorry.
If you have anything to say, you may say now.
I do have also a letter from Crosslock Bakery in support of vacating.
If you want to give it to our attorney there, you may, sir. Anything else, sir?
No, I have nothing to
Okay.
say.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. We appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. Anyone here to publicly comment on item number 66? If so, please come forward.
I guess it's good afternoon, and it's a day for alleys. My name is Linda Muley-Switzer, and I am a resident of Seminole Heights, and I was born and raised in West Tampa, so I have lived here a very, very long time. And I've owned the property at 4724 North Nebraska for over 30 years, and I had a performing arts school in it. And I am teaming up with my neighbor, who has the strip next to me, to create hopefully a wonderful retail space that will have another performing arts school in it, and hopefully partner with East Tampa. A lot of great things coming. So we kind of need that alley as a way for traffic to come in and out. And I also have my engineer here to speak on the plans. But anyway, so we really actually need that alley. So that's my take on it.
We appreciate it, ma'am. Next, sir.
My name is Khalil Majid, and I'm asking that the alley does not be vacated. In my studying of the Hillsborough and Nebraska Avenue corridor plan that was done in 2013 by the city, it's just against it. It seems like there's some elements of that plan that the alley should stay in put. I think it's some talk of ADUs or accessory dwelling units, and alley access gives access to those units. So just reading like some of the elements out of that plan, I'm asking that it does not be vacated because it limits some of the development potential of that lot in conjunction or this vision plan for Nebraska Avenue. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Anyone else here to comment on item 66? Ma'am?
I just wanted to give you an idea of where they're located, because sometimes we'll get calls when people have objections, but I did not get any contact from this person. So her property apparently is these two lots here?
Right.
And do you own 5 as well?
No.
And let's wait until they come up for public comment for.
Okay.
If you want.
So those are the 2 lots that she was speaking of.
Ms. Switzer, can you come up, please, and verify what
I thought you were talking to those people. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm at.
And please state your name, ma'am.
Yes, I'm Linda Muley-Switzer. I'm at 4724 North Nebraska on the corner of Osborne.
Which lot is yours? Which lot is yours?
You want me to?
You were those 2 right there.
Yeah. These 2.
Over here, just point there.
I guess it's these 2 here.
On 4. And Ms. Switzer, could you please just verify, are you opposing the closing of the alleyway?
Yes, I'm opposing the closing.
Thank you, Ms. Switzer.
Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment? Oh, wait. A couple of folks here. Hi, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Sophie Rivera Byrne, and I'm the person working, the engineer. I'm a civil engineer and registered in the state of Florida. And we've been looking at that property. We also have conversations because what we want to do is do a project that actually enhances the community. We are looking at the master plan. We're pretty early in telling you all that we're going to be doing, but we're working with community redevelopment. And we want to make a difference for that corridor, which is in the master plan, to actually have commercial properties. And that alley is vital for us to have access so we don't have to have all that traffic coming in and out from Nebraska. And it wasn't, I think if you look at your master plan, you would see the importance of that alley. And we can come back and show you what we will be doing. We also have conversations with other property owners, and we want to enhance that so that can be the catalyst for that redevelopment for that Nebraska corridor, which is really like a little downtown that you have. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay,
we
thank you.
appreciate your time. Next, please.
And I think we have Cameron.
Cameron Hypes. I'm the acting agent and broker for Linda and Sophie here. One of the points that we wanted to touch on was just that the alley is vital to the project that we're doing because of parking ratios required in that community. In order for us to be able to actually put any amount of housing and still have a music school and retail to enhance the ground floor there on Nebraska and Osborne, we really need that alleyway to be open so that we can allow turnout and have that as a path of egress and ingress. So it's kind of vital to us being able to do the project going forward.
Thank you, sir. We really appreciate it. Anybody else here for public comment on item 66? Nope. Rebuttal. And Councilman Citro.
I'm going to have a question for staff.
Okay. You want it before rebuttal? Or?
Yes, please, if I could. On what's on the overhead right now, properties 1, 2, 3, and 4, what are they zoned?
I actually don't know. I'm sure it's a commercial zoning. I do not know.
It is commercial?
And let's,
I'm assuming it's commercial. Is legal here?
It is commercial. Yeah, this is currently a bakery, and this was probably some commercial building. You had a dance school?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, dance school.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Okay, for the applicant now, a rebuttal, sir.
I've lived at 812 East Curtis for 12 years. There's been a lot of prostitution, drugs through that alleyway. That's why it was kind of temporarily blocked off to stop that from going through there. I really don't think that paving that alleyway or rezoning it and whatnot would be a good idea. We have children that also go outside and play as well. When even as an unimprovised alleyway, people would come through there. It's just a very dangerous area to leave that open like that. And it's only the side closest to my home. The other sides can be stayed completely open for any type of traffic or whatever they need in that area.
And if you could, before, just state your name.
Roland Amore.
Thank you, Councilman.
May I ask a question to anyone here? Lots 5 and lots, I guess it's 19, from what I can't see it. Is there a fence, or is it just the two dwellings that one to the north is 5, the one to the south is the lot next to 18? Well, I guess it's 19. Is there just that open, or is there a fence between the alleyway and the property owner?
I couldn't get back there because that's all fenced. These are both fenced at the end, so I couldn't tell you if the east-west is fenced, but I know.
So is there a fence between the two alleys? The properties are 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the one that's facing east, I guess.
Yes. There's a fence, I just don't know exactly where, in terms of the alley, where it's at. Picture. This is what it looks like looking south from Osborne.
Okay, I got it.
So I'm not quite sure where that fence is in relation to the alley.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Brooks.
Put that frame back up.
This one?
So the alley's blocked off right now?
Yes, it's been blocked off, but the south half has been blocked off from both ends.
The south half?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Which has no right.
Any further questions from council? Okay, nothing further from the applicant? Anything further, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Before a motion to close is entertained, any further questions, comments from council? Okay, may I have a motion to close?
Second.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Niscalco, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? What is the pleasure of council?
I'll take it and I'll read it and we'll see where it goes. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance vacating, closing, discontinuing, and abandoning a portion of alleyway right-of-way lying south of Osborne Avenue, north of Curtis Street, east of Taliaferro Street, and west of Nebraska Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, as more fully described in Section 1 hereof, subject to certain easements, reservations, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, more particularly set forth herein, providing an effective date. Okay.
Do we have a second? Okay. I ask again now, what is the pleasure of council?
Chairman, I move to deny the application based on the fact that what testimony they've heard today, that the alley should remain open for transportation to on the on the business of commercial property facing east, I think it is, that it's incumbent if they're going to develop that as stated on the record, which is a question mark in my mind. But if they are, then they would need transportation to go through to deliver the goods. You can't stop on Nebraska Avenue and on both sides of the street.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second, I believe, first by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I believe with that denial, I believe is that section 22-34, is that the vacate section, or 2239, if I could just inquire? Just that's included in the development order denial. Okay, thank you. 2239, Mr.
2239 is the section that I was speaking about.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move onward to item number 67. Anyone here for staff on 67?
Yeah, but 606 is wrong. 67? You're wrong, right?
Council Steve Michelini, I'm here representing the Cardis who petitioned to vacate this alley. At this time, we'd like to withdraw that request, and we reserve the right to refile in the future.
Thank you very much, sir. As we need a motion to that effect.
Move to allow the petitioner to, what do you say?
Withdraw
the application.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we move to item 68.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, go ahead, please.
if I may, I have an 8B form here, as this was part of a variance review that I was chair of at the time.
Thank you very much, sir. And we're going to have 1, 2, 3, okay, 5 members. We're going off at 12:30. I always want to make sure staff has ample time to eat and whatnot. We have here item 68, and then the report on, I guess, 69, and then so we just have 68.
What's that?
And then information reports. Okay, so we can try and
We can make it, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do it. Go for it.
Good afternoon, Kate Wells with the Office of the City Attorney. Although the item before you was identified as a review of a special magistrate's recommendation pursuant to Section 70.51 Florida statutes, the review is actually very different from reviews that you have considered in the past. Today's hearing is not a de novo review of the VRB action that occurred last year. That hearing, that de novo review, actually occurred before City Council on January 10th, 2019, and is the action from which the property owner is seeking relief today. Also, today's hearing is not a review of the special magistrate's recommendation on whether council's decision during the hearing in January was unreasonable or unfairly burdened the use of the property. Section 70.51 Florida statutes is intended to vest the special magistrate with the authority to first facilitate and mediate between the property owner and the city to effect a mutually acceptable solution. That's the language in the statutes. If a mediation is not possible, then you go through the more formal hearing process with the special magistrate. So we're actually at that very first level where a mediation was held on April 15th of 2019. And as a result of that mediation, city staff and the property owner have negotiated a settlement that is before you for approval. That is the special magistrate's recommendation. You will see that the landscape plan attached to the magistrate's recommendation as Exhibit A sets forth what it is the parties have negotiated. So today really, yes, it's a quasi-judicial hearing, but council's review and decision is limited to consideration of the recommendation and whether or not to accept the proposed landscape plan intended to mitigate any impacts of the variances that were previously approved. I have submitted an outline of the procedures for today, sample motions, and a copy of the relevant statutes. And Eric Cotton Unless you've got questions for me, Eric Cotton is available to provide you with more detailed procedural history.
Any questions?
Oh, just welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Eric Cotton, Planning and Development. This was originally heard by since there's a few new members from the last time council heard, I'm just going to do a quick summary of the case. This was originally heard by the Variance Review Board on September 11th, 2018. Just to give you background, this is on Bayshore. This is the property highlighted in red. At the time, the board saw this site plan, and when they made the motion, one of the motions was to reduce the rear yard from 20 down to 13. They put a condition that these two existing structures that were encroaching into the setback were to remain at 1 story. The applicant filed a petition for review. At the January 10th, 2019 public hearing, City Council upheld the Variance Review Board's determination. Then it went through the mediation process, and the applicant has proposed this site plan, which would enable the 2-story addition with a planting in the back along the rear property line. It's proposed to be, let me get a little bit closer, those are going to be areca palms, 15 gallons at the time of plantings, and they're going to be, there's 4 trees to be planted 3 feet apart. So at 15 gallons, they're going to be relatively tall plants, or trees, and that was to provide a buffer between the property owner to the east and this property owner. Staff has reviewed it. Natural Resources staff has also reviewed it. Staff feel that this would be a compromise solution to provide some kind of buffer between the 2 property owners.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
And the property owners have agreed to this, right?
The property owner that is in negotiation with the city has, the adjacent property owner is here to put forth his viewpoint.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, applicant.
Good afternoon, Council. Susan Johnson Velez, 607 West Bay Street, on behalf of the property owner, Alex English. I believe staff has really summarized this pretty well. I just did want to make a couple of points. We did have a mediation hearing with the special magistrate. Subsequently, Mr. English did meet with Natural Resources staff and very carefully went through the type of plantings that would be appropriate, and they did come to an agreement as to these types of plantings. I did want to just put up, for those of you who weren't here or might not remember, so this is actually the back fence that separates my client's property from the property in the rear, which is where the gentleman who was in opposition to the variance. And so there's already significant planting, and so the planting that is proposed in that back corner actually pretty well matches this planting, and it was chosen and agreed to by the city and Mr. English, both for the fact that it will grow very quickly and also for the fact that it will provide the kind of opacity that you see in this picture. And I also just wanted to, because it's not part of your backup, the existing home, this is the area that is proposed. This is an existing kind of screened-in porch, and what they're asking to do is just kind of square off this corner and make this, add a second story to what's an existing structure already. And so the removal of the condition would allow for that. And the house as it exists today is a normal 2-story height. There's been no height variance, so it is exactly the height that's allowed for a 2-story building. And this is what's in the backyard now. So the house is a little bit L-shaped. This is probably one of the largest grand oaks that exists in the city, and you can see that a lot of care has been taken to build around that and not to encroach on that tree and to actually try to save that. And so you can see there's plenty of space for, expansion elsewhere, but not without impacting that tree. And so, a lot of people come in, this is kind of a reverse what you usually see in a variance review hearing. We're not asking to remove the tree, but actually to help us preserve the tree. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, we would ask your approval of the special magistrate recommendation, including the site plan.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any questions? Councilman Maniscalco.
I'm glad to see that a tree is being preserved in this kind of manner because, we love trees and they're important to us. So this is a very positive thing here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, is anyone here for public comment on item number 68? If so, please come forward. Now's your time, sir.
Hello, my name is Bruce Tigert. My wife Cindy and I live at 2510 West Gardner Court. Our property is adjacent to the subject property here. Our side property line is contiguous with their rear property line. We have been here and spoken in opposition at 2 VRB hearings, the city council hearing, and the mediation, because this matter affects and impacts our property so substantially. Let me show you a picture that will help you get an idea. This is a view from approximately 30 feet inside our property. The fence that you see right there is on the property line. All the landscaping currently is on our side of the fence, trying to do something to mitigate this structure. You can see this structure, the eave line here is 24 feet above grade and 13 feet from the property line. So it's very imposing. Another picture here will show you, this was like the same location, just a little different angle. And what approval today would do would be to allow the portion here that was restricted as a one-story structure to go up and go from this 14-foot eave height to a 24-foot eave height here, matching this, and then you have that a solid wall, solid with windows that are looking out onto our property. So this has a severe impact on our property and makes a big difference to us. This is what we see. One more picture. This is about 50 feet into our property. When we walk out our front door, this is what we see. When we walk out and look to the right, that's the view of the subject property. The proposed solution here, we're talking about 4 15-gallon Areca palms. They're going to come in. They're going to be 6 to 8 feet tall. Where they're going to be located, to the east we have the grand oak trees that are on our property. To the west we have the 24 to 30 foot tall structure, the subject on the subject property. Areca palms will grow to be 15 to 20 feet given the right conditions, which they can tolerate partial shade, but they can't tolerate full shade. And so I just don't see that this is going to make much of a difference. I don't, and so I'm asking that you reject this recommendation and so that this structure won't be built. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. Anyone else here for public comment on item 68? Okay, a rebuttal?
Thank you, Chairman. Susan Johnson Velez, again. The only thing I would add, Mr. Tigert was present for all the prior hearings. He was present at the mediated settlement, and I think the need to work with staff to come up with the right plantings was as a result of some of his comments. But I just wanted to put this picture up again. I mean, these are Areca palms that currently exist today. Again, this is their common fence. In fact, this is Mr. Tigert's home here. And so there is substantial buffering and screening that is provided, and the plant height you can see far exceeds the height of the structure. So again, we would just ask, this was something that we worked really diligently on to come up with the right solution, and we believe is evidenced even by this picture that it will provide the opacity so that the structure will barely be visible behind it. So again, we ask for your approval of the recommendation.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Any questions? Okay, we have a motion to close.
So moved.
We have a motion to close by Councilman Escato, a second by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, what is the pleasure of council?
Chairman, I've heard this case, and I voted, I believe, first time against it. I've seen the first photograph that was shown that shows the building at 24 feet, which is allowed by law. And anyone can correct me anytime that you want to hear it. That building is all that is built on this property here is allowed by law. What the case was is they had and I saw it in the third or fourth picture, there's a building already, a structure here, and there's another floor that's coming here, and they want to improve this floor to this height with the same. So it's not, in my opinion, after reviewing and seeing this over and over again, and the trees that are going to be planted, I don't think it's going to do anything to hurt the gentleman's property value at all. That's my feeling.
Any further comments? Mr. Shelby?
And just a reminder, Council, on page 2 of what's been handed out by Ms. Wells, you have sample motions. You have, in highlighted in yellow, you have 3 separate motions to either accept, modify, or reject. And if you would just make reference to those, that would be helpful in your
Thank you
decision.
very much, sir. Any further comments?
I gotta find this item.
And who would like to make a motion? Councilman Yates. I'll go. All right.
What are these here? I hope this is correct. If not, please correct me. In accordance with section 70.5121B, Florida statute, I move to modify the recommendation of the special magistrate as substitute. Well, that's why I said, you hand me one, it's got 3 of them.
I believe Mr. Miranda, Councilman Miranda, by what you stated previously, I believe your motion would be to accept the recommendation as it was offered.
I move to accept the recommendation of the magistrate. In accordance with section 70.5121A, Florida statute as permitted by section 70.5119C, Florida statute, I move to accept the recommendation of special magistrate by submitted specifically that the landscape plan negotiated by the petitioner and the city as a result of the mediation held on April the 15th and as depicted in Exhibit A to the special magistrate's correspondence be approved. Pursuant to section 70.5119C Florida statute, the petitioner and the city are permitted to enter into an agreement as to the permissible use of the property prior to the magistrate's entering a recommendation. At any fact or additional citation you feel appropriate, so forth and so on.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Miranda, a second by Councilman Scalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Motion carried with Carson voting no, Citro abstaining, and Dingfelder absent.
Okay, next we move to information reports and motions. And I wanted to thank everyone and staff for the extra 10 minutes or so that we're taking from you. I actually really appreciate it 100%. Councilman Goods, anything, sir? Yes. Yes, sir, go for it.
Gentlemen, this morning we heard information from staff regarding the marijuana distribution facility on Henry Avenue. This time I'd like to make a motion to explore changes, solutions, and or remedies to the current code ordinance as it relates to a marijuana dispensary or the production of marijuana on industrial zone properties adjacent or surrounded by residential areas, police and fire facilities, schools, and daycare facilities.
Second.
We have a motion by, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, did you want a date associated with that? How much time did you want to give them?
I think they'll need probably maybe about 30 days, I would think.
Pardon?
Maybe about 30 days out.
30, an additional 30 days from now?
What is our, let me so many papers up here. There we go. Okay, so we're at the end of September, so you're looking towards the end of October, to the beginning of November. Let's see, October 4th.
That's a workshop.
Okay.
That's a long
so
workshop.
Let's take a look at, no, you're fine, Joe. The 7th?
Of November, is that acceptable?
That'll be fine. That'll be fine.
Good day.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything further? Yes, sir. I guess they are.
Any further away being Polk County.
Anything further?
Yes, sir.
Go for
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I was, when you use the word summoned, but was requested to go to a meeting regarding the Zion Cemetery issue at Rose Park with Congresswoman Kathy Castor. There was a lot of discussion going on, and one of the discussions came from the residential council members that they were wondering why hadn't city council members gone out to Rose Park and talk with residents or look at what's going on out there. I did advise the residents that council, myself, did make a motion to have Tampa Housing Authority come back and give a report, also with our legal staff. But of course, sometimes people view things a little bit different when they want action and want to see the city council there. They had some concerns about the mayor not being there either. But what I did tell the residents that I would bring this to council in reference to possible us going out to that facility, looking at what's going on and meeting with the resident council. I'll put a motion on the floor. I don't know where it may go, but I want the residents to know that I gave my commitment to bring this to council in reference to their concerns. This time I'd like to make a motion to have the fellow city council members and city council attorney Martin Shelby to visit Robles Park, Zion Cemetery property and designated areas with an effective date within maybe 30 to 40 days.
Second.
Okay, and we're okay with that legally, I assume, if it's properly noticed?
Well, actually, not unless you have a date and time and a location that.
And we can pick that.
Well, you can do that in a future date.
Yeah.
Come back to council with that. That'll be fine.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Last motion, sir. In reference to the Zion, again, the community's asking things that I can't answer, and I don't think the council knows either. I also like to make a motion for the real estate division to research more about the history of the Zion Cemetery and how the Robles Park was developed on top of the human remains of citizens.
Second.
We have, are you looking for a report or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and you want to give them 30 days to provide that
Exactly.
report? Okay. And that would just be a report or in person?
In person.
Okay.
If, may
Yes,
I
sir.
ask that you include Tampa Housing Authority with
Yes,
that?
we can.
Okay, we have a motion, and what are you looking at, 60 days? What?
Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay, let's take a look at dates then. Guess we'd have to go into December is, December 5th appears to be okay. Is that okay, sir?
That's fine.
Okay. December 5th, we have a motion by Councilman Goods, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything further, sir?
That'll do it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Maniscalco.
Have the residents been relocated, or is it still?
I
everybody still
think
there?
they're working on things. I'm supposed to go to a meeting, I believe it's tomorrow or the following Friday, in regards to an update.
Okay, all right. I have nothing, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Citro?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that council remove the 5G discussion from the upcoming workshop on September 26, 2019. As the permitting process has been effective and providers are navigating the system in an efficient manner.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything further, sir?
Nothing today.
Thank you very much. Councilman Miranda?
Yes, I'd just like to give one copy of what I found in the St. Pete Times, and I love to read the stuff nobody else reads. I like to read all the want ads, and I found one there that talked about Florida PACE Funding Agency, a public body, having a meeting in November 1st, and if they can come back in 30 days to tell us if this is a statewide operation that they're doing. This city did not get involved, and PACE, the county did, we did not, and we chose not to. And this is what it is that they get loans, and it's a non-ad valorem assessment. That means that it goes on your tax bill. And anytime anything goes on your tax bill, you're liable to lose your property. I'm not saying you will, but there's an opportunity, and I certainly don't want to see that on anyone. So this is for repair of roofs, air conditioning, stuff of that matter. And when it goes through in other words, there's no collection agency that they go through. The property is theirs if they file a lawsuit because it's not ad valorem tax you didn't pay. And I'd like to give this to the clerk so she can have a copy and the legal department can have a copy and let us know what opinion of anything we can do. I'm not sure that's something that they're asking for a statewide law to say that everybody's got to do it.
May I comment?
Yes, sir, of course.
30 days.
And Councilman Maniscalco, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to give Councilman Miranda credit on the PACE issue. I mean, as a previous council, we've always opposed it, as he said. The city of Tampa has always been against it, even though the county's moved in a different direction. But if you follow Mike Fasano, who's in a nearby county, and he's been, vehemently opposed to pace, and he's, if you look at his Twitter account, he'll tell you about, different horror stories and issues and whatnot. So we can already see in a different county what's going on, and what we potentially could have avoided, here with the city and whatnot. So that was it.
Thank you. Okay, and that was a motion.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Citro.
It's fine.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything else, sir? Yes, sir. Councilman Carlson.
First, just in response to our colleague, Mr. Goods, if you, obviously we all care about East Tampa, and at least I need to learn more about it. So if there are, I've tried to gather information on my own and participate in what I know about, but if there's events or programs or things that you think we should go to the extent that Mr. Shelby will allow you, please circulate it so that we'll know and we can attend. And I would say the same thing in my district. There are a lot of events going on that you all may want to attend. One of them is, and the public is invited too, November 24th at 6 o'clock at Kate Jackson Park. The Hyde Park Neighborhood Associations have come together and spent $20,000 of their own money to develop a plan for their area. And I think it's indicative of the kinds of plans that can be done that we've been talking about getting help from the Planning Commission on. So if any of you want to observe that, listen to it. I think we're not allowed to talk to each other if we all go there, but you all may want to attend. You don't have to sign up. Just show up at Kate Jackson Park on the 24th at 6. And then along those lines also, I'm not for or against this, but I've had a lot of constituents ask us, since we've had DOT present, to have Josh Frank come before council during our January 30th, 2020 workshop to discuss his design and plan to convert a section of I-275 to a boulevard.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Citro, and I first heard a second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the January 30th workshop?
Yeah.
Now, Mr. Chairman, you had sent out a memo regarding changes
Oh,
to
I'm
the
sorry.
scheduling of that. I just want to confirm if we want to begin starting that and perhaps set that for 9:30.
But how many do we have that day?
You have a commendation at 9 and you have a workshop at 9, so you can set the next one for 9:30. I believe
Yeah,
your
of course.
intention is to set a
Yes.
half hour per subject matter?
And yes, sir, well said. So should we do it at 9:30?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well,
And-
if that's council's pleasure.
And that'll be our
certainly.
aspiration, but yeah.
And I put it far out because I know we're jammed up between
Yeah.
now and then.
Okay, great. Okay, yep, so that's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
So we need to
Anything
vote.
else? Did we vote? We did.
No.
I'm sorry.
It was a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, the last thing is, I would like to make a motion for the city of Tampa to offer a commendation to AMI Kids, Inc. for their 50th year of guiding troubled youth into positive, productive alternatives to past behavior and enabling them to become successful citizens of this great city, and we'll deliver it to them in person.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Carlson, a second by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else, sir? That's it. And then if I may, Councilman Citro, then I had something. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. How could I forget this? And it was done in such a fashion that I'm hoping that you all will forgive me on this. New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, my church, the church I go to, which was located on the corner block of Oregon Avenue, is celebrating its 113th anniversary. I'd like to make a motion that a commendation be given to them on whichever date, off-site commendation to celebrate that 113th birthday.
Okay, just let us know the date, if possible. We have a motion by Councilman Citro, a second by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
And if I may, just a couple of things. I motion for Karen Clay, who's the president of the Disability Caucus of Florida, to give us a 5-minute presentation on the devastating impacts of cuts to Medicaid waiver at the November 7th regular session council.
Second.
We have a motion from Chairman Vera with the second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Also motion, and this is a time-limited issue for something that's going to go before the county commission as it applies to the USF area. Motion for representatives from Tampa Innovation to provide a 5-minute presentation on exploring a partnership with Hillsborough County and private partners regarding an opportunity zone strategy for the Uptown Innovation District at the regular council session of October 17th.
Second.
We have a motion from Chairman Vera with the second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All All right.
Thank you. And then just one last thing, something that was in the news that I just wanted to briefly talk about was on Councilman Goods wisely spoke on the Tampa Housing Authority issue, was on Memorial Park. I know the city is working on that. There's a bunch of different legal issues that go there. I just wanted to state just my position on it, which is as it applies to the actual cemetery. I must confess that before Mr. Guzzo, who just continues to do these remarkable stories that just bring ignored history to light, that before I had read that story, I'd never been out there to that cemetery. Obviously, I've been to the College Hill area, but never particularly that cemetery. And what I saw out there was just amazing. It blows your mind. You have a lot of cemetery plots of individuals, African Americans, who fought and died for their country between 1917 and 1918 in World War I, and they're just not maintained. So immediately I had a meeting with the administration on it, and so I know that there are various legal disputes that are happening. The city has done some work with regards to maintaining the cemetery whenever it comes to lawn maintenance and different issues like that. But I think the larger issue that we can look at is community involvement to improving that memorial, to improving that cemetery. So I've reached out to some local veterans groups, and we're going to be working with the city to see if we can get some man and women power out there to make that place right, because it devastates the mind, and it really ticks me off for what we've seen out there. So we're working with the city on that, because that is an issue of racial justice, and that's also an issue of respect for our veterans, especially our veterans who, I mean, it blows the mind. This is during the time when Florida had the highest per capita rate of lynchings, and here we have these African Americans from Florida who go out there, they fight, they die for their country, and we owe them this at the very least today. So just a statement on that.
Councilman Goode.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I knew Mr. Robinson personally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being in the business, we knew him, and when he first went to the city, because he was getting older and needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see him out there sickly trying to still mow the lawns and grass out there, Mr. Robinson. God bless him. But I think you're right. We got to look at that, because with him being gone, and the story Mr. Guzman wrote, the family is not being involved with the process. So you still have people who purchased burial plots out there, and now who do they contact? What do they do for those plots? So I think you're right, Mr. Chairman. It's something we're going to have to look into, because there is also another cemetery at the railroad tracks at Lake, and probably about 38th Street in the corner there. So we have several cemetery plot areas in the city that aren't really maintained and kept up at all. They look horrible. So I'm glad you're bringing it up, and you meet with the administration to try to work on that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
That wasn't a
No, just a Councilman Coons.
I also spoke to legal about this, and I'm not an expert on the legal issues, but I understand that there's state law that requires a trust fund, but even if we got all of that trust in this case, it won't last very long for the maintenance of it. And so I think this is a systemic issue for city, but also every city and government in the state. I mean, I think we have 5 cemeteries now, and if we suddenly take over all of them, then it could be a big fiscal issue. We need to make sure we preserve history, but one of the things we ought to do is try to figure out if there's a resolution that we should pass to encourage the state to regulate this in a better way, so that we don't end up with this situation.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, if I may, when it comes to the fiscal issue, we've inquired on, the administration is looking as to what the ultimate fiscal dollar would be. But again, there's a whole bunch of legal issues there. I want to opine on that. You know, my issue is that if there's no responsible party as it applies to this particular cemetery, the city needs to partner with community partners like I'm working on, local veterans groups, because again, as it applies to this particular cemetery, African Americans who fought and were killed in World War I, man, we all agree 7-0. You don't get more compelling than that. So all I'm trying to do is just to find a solution, but to get people involved, not just to look to the city of Tampa and not just to go, city of Tampa, let's take care of this, but to get the many Tampanians and Tampanos out there who want to work together on it. So that's important.
I think something that the administration can look at, since we do have a person who handles our cemeteries within the city, is that look at the ones that are dormant and such, that aren't being maintained, and even Memorial Park probably at this point, to where there's still plots, so maybe we can find an outside contractor that can maintain and also still be able to charge folks for burials there at a reasonable cost to still bury there, and that cost can be accrued within itself. So I look at those things that come up in the discussions, and I think that could possibly happen.
Thank you, sir. And that's it. Anyone else?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Miranda, second by Councilman Escalco. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council is adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. No. Anybody going?